Chapter 3799. No, we can't separate. If we separate, the monster will kill us one by one and we'll die even faster," said the silver-haired old man. The reason why the previous group of people were defeated so quickly was because some people wanted to escape and retreat, so the group was scattered. This gave the monster an opportunity to take advantage of and kill everyone in just a few moves. Only the silver-haired old man was left. He had managed to escape thanks to his incredible cultivation level. What should we do then? Are we going to wait for death? If that's the case, I'd rather risk my life," shouted the scar-faced man furiously. The scars on his face were distorted. He looked hideous. He was terrified. That monster bullied the weak and feared the strong. It killed the weak first. 2 people had died before, and they were both cultivators of the first godly emperor layer. He was afraid that the next one would be him. That kind of waiting was torturous. There's only one way, we have to stay together and move towards the exit. That's the only way we'll have a chance to leave this place alive," said the silver-haired old man. "Alright, let's do that. I agree with Commander Ian. Let's move out now. We'll move towards the exit together." Many people agreed to move together. "Listen to me, get ready, attack," shouted the silver-haired elder. Everyone attacked at the same time. All sorts of attacks were sent towards the exit. That region's gale was instantly torn apart, and a huge gap appeared. Then, they moved together and rushed toward the gap. Unfortunately, the gale whistled and moved extremely fast. With a sweep, the gap was closed again. "Attack together," shouted the silver-haired old man. Everybody attacked again, and continued moving forwards. However, a moment later, a horrible shriek spread in the air. Everybody saw that the monster had appeared in front of a cultivator of the first godly emperor layer. That cultivator couldn't fight back at all and was killed instantly. The people next to him were astonished. They hastily attacked the monster, but just like before, after the monster's body broke apart, it condensed in the wind and disappeared. "Hurry up, let's go," shouted everybody furiously. They kept attacking the monster and sped up. However, they were still a distance away from the exit. It wasn't easy to cross that distance. After a short distance, the monster attacked again. Another cultivator of the first godly emperor layer was killed. Thus, everyone was in a state of panic. After a short time, another cultivator of the first godly emperor layer died. 5 cultivators of the first godly emperor layer had already been killed, but they couldn't do anything to the monsters. "No, this is too slow. If this goes on, only death awaits. Let's rush out." With so many people rushing out, how many people can that monster kill? The chances of survival will be higher. It's better than waiting for death. "Yes, let's split up and charge out," shouted some cultivators of the first godly emperor layer. Most of them were cultivators of the first godly emperor layer. That monster had been killing cultivators of the first godly emperor layer. How could those cultivators of the first godly emperor layer not panic? "This won't do. Once we scatter, we'll all die. You won't be able to escape either," the silver-haired old man shouted. "If we don't scatter, we'll die. That monster only kills cultivators of the first godly emperor layer. It won't kill you first, so you'll be fine. When we're all dead, you can escape to the exit," shouted a cultivator of the first godly emperor layer. The other cultivators of the first godly emperor layer and even the second godly emperor layer pulled long faces. Indeed, the monster was picking on the weak first. Strong cultivators like the silver-haired old man wouldn't die first. Maybe they could escape to the exit, but the cultivators of the first godly emperor layer would die. Even the cultivators of the second godly emperor layer would be in danger. They thought that the silver-haired old man and the others wanted to kill them so that they could escape. Let's go. Let's go. Instantly, all the cultivators of the first godly emperor layer and some of the cultivators of the second godly emperor layer ran in all directions. They were scattered. The Gale monster couldn't kill so many people at the same time. Now, they had to see who was lucky. If they were lucky, they could escape. At the scene, only 8 people did not move, including Lu Ming. "Those idiots," shouted the silver-haired old man furiously. Before the silver-haired old man could finish speaking, a shrill scream was heard. A cultivator of the first godly emperor layer was blown away by a strong wind. His body broke like a piece of porcelain and turned into ashes in the scorching heat. Hoo hoo hoo, the fierce wind between heaven and earth suddenly became even more violent, as if countless giant beasts were roaring and rampaging within. Between heaven and earth, the fiery red gale actually formed tornadoes that swept in all directions. "Ah!" A series of miserable cries rang out. Those people who had rushed out were all swept up by the tornadoes. They let out miserable cries of despair before being turned to dust by the tornadoes. That included cultivators of the second godly emperor layer. Cultivators of the second godly emperor layer were much stronger than cultivators of the first godly emperor layer. They could easily kill cultivators of the first godly emperor layer, but in front of that tornado, they couldn't do anything. In the blink of an eye, those who had rushed out were all dead. The remaining people had pale faces. Lu Ming finally understood why only the silver-haired old man had managed to escape. Splitting up to escape was of no help at all. "Let's continue moving forward using the same method as before," said the silver-haired old man. Then, they continued moving forwards, breaking through the strong wind. However, after a short time, they were attacked again. A cultivator of the second godly emperor layer was attacked by a monster. He couldn't fight back and was instantly killed. That was the last cultivator of the second godly emperor layer. The others were all cultivators of the third godly emperor layer and above. Of course, Lu Ming was an exception. Apart from Lu Ming, there were 6 people left, 2 cultivators of the fourth godly emperor layer and 4 cultivators of the third godly emperor layer. "Attack!" shouted the silver-haired old man extremely loudly. They all attacked together, breaking through the strong wind and moving forwards. Whoosh! Suddenly, a strong wind flashed and an old woman of the third godly emperor layer appeared in front of her. The monster's body was condensed by the strong wind. That wind looked like countless sharp blades. It was scorching hot as it spun around and moved towards the old woman. "Die!" shouted the old woman. She had the strength of the third godly emperor layer. She was much stronger than a cultivator of the second godly emperor layer. She shouted furiously, her body glowing with dazzling light. Her hands turned into 2 scimitars and she slashed out violently. Boom! The monster's body was cut into several pieces, but it wasn't injured at all. The pieces of the monster's body condensed back together and continued moving towards the old woman. The old woman's godly emperor layer broke like tofu. Chapter 3800. The old woman had the strength of the third godly emperor layer. Her protective godly aura was broken, and the wind crashed onto her body. She gave a horrible shriek. "Attack!" shouted the old man with silver hair and the others. They used their full strength to attack the monster. Bam! The monster's body was scattered, turning into gusts of strong wind. It quickly retreated and merged into the surroundings, disappearing without a trace. However, nothing happened at all. The old woman looked miserable. She was covered in blood, and her body had almost been cut into pieces. Her chi was weak. Even though she wasn't dead, she was severely injured. If the others hadn't helped her, she would have died. "Save me! You have to save me!" screamed the old woman. She was terrified. She was severely injured, and she was afraid the monster would attack her again. If that happened, she would die. Left! Shouted someone furiously at that moment. The monster appeared from the left. Everyone hurriedly attacked the left side, but his body flashed and disappeared. In the next moment, he reappeared in another direction. This direction was where the old woman was. Whoosh! Whoosh! A strong wind moved towards the old woman. No! Shouted the old woman. She was terrified, but then she stopped screaming. She was sucked into the wind and turned into ashes. Damn it, damn it! What is that monster? Why can't we kill it? Shouted the remaining cultivators of the third godly emperor layer furiously, as if they had gone insane. The old woman's cultivation level was similar to theirs. If the monster could kill the old woman, it could kill them too. How could they not go crazy? What do we do? What do we do? Asked a big man of the third godly emperor layer. He was terrified. Find that monster and use your full strength to attack it. I don't believe there's anything in the world that can't be killed. Maybe our method is wrong. Maybe we need to consume its energy, but we don't have enough. A clear and bright voice could be heard. It was Lu Ming. Lu Ming's words made the others' eyes twinkle. That's right. Maybe it's because our attacks aren't strong enough. Every time we attack, we're actually draining the monster's energy. Let's continue attacking. As long as we keep attacking, the monster's energy will be depleted. Said the old man with silver hair. Even so, we can't find any traces of that monster. How are we going to attack it? Said another cultivator of the fourth godly emperor layer. He looked like a 30-year-old man with a square face. He was extremely strong. His name was Jaundice. That's right, I can't find any traces of him at all. Do we have to continue being bait? Then we'll all be killed by that monster before we can even defeat it. The others were all talking at once, their expressions ugly. Previously, when they attacked the monsters, it was the monsters that came out to kill. When they didn't come out to kill, the monsters would blend into the strong wind and couldn't be found. Leave this to me, I'll look for it. Lu Ming said. You came? Can you really find it? The rest of the people looked at Lu Ming with anticipation. Lu Ming was so young, yet his battle prowess was heaven-defying. He was definitely a monster from a large faction. Perhaps he really did have the means to find monsters. As long as they could find traces of the monster, they would not be so passive. Let me try. Lu Ming nodded. Of course, he wasn't relying on himself, he was relying on Guemo. Guemo had just told him that he might be able to find traces of the monster. After a period of research, Bone Devil already had a clue. Master Guemo, how is it? Lu Ming asked Guemo soon. Guemo was sitting cross-legged in Lu Ming's sea of consciousness. His pitch-black bones were shining. He looked holy and pure. He was doing his best to find the monster. I found it. Attack the right side. Said Guemo suddenly. Attack the right side. Shouted Lu Ming suddenly. He threw a punch towards the right side. The silver-haired old man and the others didn't hesitate, they followed Lu Ming's attack. 6 people, 6 attacks, blasted towards the right. The gale in that direction was constantly exploding. Then, they saw a blurry figure being destroyed by their attacks. It was really that monster. They really found it. The silver-haired old man, Jaundice, and the others were ecstatic. They looked at Lu Ming with anticipation. Let's move slowly. I'll find traces of the monster. Said Lu Ming. Alright, you can search in peace. I guarantee that the monster won't hurt you. Said the silver-haired old man. That's right. Jaundice said. Now, Lu Ming was their only hope to escape. They would never let Lu Ming be attacked by the monster. They moved and protected Lu Ming in the middle. Huff huff huff, as they moved, strong winds blew around them, howling incessantly. Behind me. Suddenly, Lu Ming shouted again. Boom! Boom! The 6 of them attacked again. Their attacks were so fierce that the void kept exploding. They wanted to crush everything in that direction. In that direction, the monster's figure appeared. Under the 6 attacks, it dispersed and merged back into the strong wind. Great, ha ha ha. Jaundice laughed excitedly. The others also had smiles on their faces. Once could be a coincidence, but twice in a row, Lu Ming found traces of the monster. That was no longer a coincidence. Lu Ming could really find traces of the monster. This way, they could hit the monster every time. Even if they couldn't kill the monster couldn't sneak up on them. They could leave this place alive. Next, they followed this method and headed toward the exit. Along the way, they hit the monster several times, preventing it from sneaking up on them. However, they found a problem. Could the monster really not be killed after hitting it so many times? Fortunately, they could now detect the monster's traces in advance. Otherwise, they would be in danger and would be left here. Seeing that they were not far from the exit, they slowly relaxed. Huff huff huff, at this moment, the strong wind around them roared crazily. It was even more violent than before. The endless strong wind spun rapidly around them like a tornado. They seemed to be shrouded in the center of the tornado. Then, in one direction, the monster's figure was faintly discernible in the strong wind. Be careful, it seems that the monster is about to launch an all-out attack. Reminded the silver-haired old man. Obviously, seeing that they were about to escape, I'm going crazy. I want to attack them head-on and defeat them. No, there's more than one monster. There are 2, 3, suddenly, someone cried out in alarm. His voice was filled with terror. Chapter 3801. Lu Ming, the silver-haired old man, Jaundice, and the others were also greatly alarmed. They swept their gazes around and discovered that one figure after another had appeared amidst the raging winds. All of them were figures of monsters that looked exactly the same. 1, 2, 3. A total of 9. 9 monsters appeared and surrounded them. The faces of the silver-haired old man, Jaundice, and the others turned ashen. The reason for that was because those were definitely not illusions. Instead, they truly existed. Those 9 monsters were all real. There were actually a total of 9 such monsters. One of them was already difficult enough to deal with, but now, there were actually 9 of them. We're finished, shouted a strong cultivator of the 3rd godly emperor layer. He looked desperate. Although the others didn't shout, their eyes were also filled with despair. Only Lu Ming was better off. Along the way, Lu Ming had experienced too many dangerous situations and faced too many crises. He was very clear in his heart that the more dangerous the situation, the calmer he had to be. Moreover, he still had a trump card. He would carry the purple copper coffin with him. If it did not work, he could just open the purple copper coffin and risk his life. Hoo-hoo-hoo, the gale whistled and became even more violent. Then, the 9 monsters moved at the same time, bringing with them a terrifying gale as they charged towards Lu Ming's group. The scorching heat even burned through space. A strong wind that was countless times sharper than a blade swept towards Lu Ming's group of 6. 2 attacked the silver-haired old man, 2 attacked Jaundice, and the remaining 5 attacked Lu Ming and the 3 cultivators of the 3rd godly emperor layer. Even through Qiuqiu's armor, he could still feel the terrifying heat. Break! Lu Ming brandished the silver spear that Qiuqiu had transformed into. The silver spear was suffused with the radiance of moonlight, breaking apart the terrifying gale. But Lu Ming could break the gale, and the other 3 cultivators of the third godly emperor layer weren't as strong. "Ah, I can't accept this!" shouted someone furiously. One of the cultivators of the third godly emperor layer was attacked by 2 monsters at the same time. He couldn't compete with them and was killed instantly. "No, I don't want to die here. I want to charge out!" shouted the remaining 2 cultivators of the third godly emperor layer furiously. They wanted to run away. However, their fate was already sealed. When they rushed into the gale, they were immediately attacked by several monsters. After 2 screams, they stopped breathing. Thus, only the silver-haired old man, Jaundice, and Lu Ming were left. The silver-haired old man and Jaundice had the strength of the 4th godly emperor layer, medium-level godly emperors. They were much stronger than cultivators of the 3rd godly emperor layer. The 2 of them used their full strength to block the 2 monsters' attacks. They even had the upper hand. However, the monsters were immortal. Once they were defeated, they would quickly reform. Lu Ming wasn't that strong himself, but with Qiu Qiu's help, he had the strength of the 4th godly emperor layer, or even higher. Qiu Qiu had already broken through to the 2nd godly emperor layer. After turning into a silver spear, he was terrifyingly strong. He could definitely compete with cultivators of the 4th godly emperor layer. He could even kill them. Lu Ming relied on Qiu Qiu to block the monsters' attacks. However, after the monsters killed the 3 cultivators of the 3rd godly emperor layer, they started to gather and surround Lu Ming and the others. Lu Ming, the silver-haired old man, and Jaundice also gathered together and joined hands to fight against the monsters. The 9 monsters stirred up a strong gale and launched a fierce attack at them. The 3 of them could only defend themselves. They couldn't break out. The silver-haired old man and Jaundice pulled long faces. The situation wasn't good. If it continued, they might not be able to break out. I understand now. I finally understand. It's not that these so-called monsters can't die, but that they aren't his true body. At this moment, Bone Demon shouted in Lu Ming's sea of consciousness. Not his real body? Master Guemo, what do you mean? Asked Lu Ming hastily. It's very simple. The real monster hasn't shown up yet. The ones attacking you are his energy clones. Therefore, when you defeat him and consume his energy, his real body will replenish his energy and create an illusion that he's immortal. As long as you can find his real body and attack it, you'll be able to destroy the monster. Explained Guemo. I see. Master Guemo, can you find the real body of the monster? Asked Lu Ming. No problem. I've already found some clues. I'll be able to find it soon, said Guemo. His head was shining. He was looking for the monster's real body. I know how to get rid of those monsters, said Lu Ming to the silver-haired old man and Jaundice at that moment. You have a solution? What is it? When the silver-haired old man and Jaundice heard Lu Ming, they were suddenly excited. They looked desperate before, but now they had hope again. Do you know why those monsters can't be killed? It's because they aren't his real body. His real body hasn't shown up. Those are his clones. Lu Ming repeated Gu Mo's explanation. I see. No wonder it's so hard to kill them. Little brother, do you have a way to find the monster's real body? Asked the silver-haired old man. Yes, I found it. It's in that direction. At that moment, Guemo found the direction of the monster's real body and pointed it out to Lu Ming. Lu Ming took the opportunity to point it out. Alright, let's kill our way over. Kill that monster. The silver-haired old man and Jaundice revealed a ferocious glint. Together with Lu Ming, they charged in that direction. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the 9 monsters seemed to be anxious. They gathered together and stirred up an endless gale. They attacked Lu Ming's group crazily, trying to block Lu Ming's group. However, this further confirmed that Lu Ming was right. Jaundice and the silver-haired old man suppressed themselves to the extreme. They used every bit of their strength to attack crazily. Lu Ming waved his silver spear. The dazzling spear light swept across the sky, shattering the two monsters. They rushed through and rushed into the strong wind, continuing to move forward. Sure enough, after rushing for a while, they found a figure. This figure looked very similar to the monster, but its body was taller and more solid. In the middle of its head, there was a round bead that was shining. This was definitely the monster's real body. There was no mistake. Kill. The silver-haired old man and Jaundice became excited and rushed toward the monster's real body. However, in front of the monster's real body, 9 figures condensed. They were the 9 clones. The 9 clones blocked in front of them. However, at this point, Lu Ming's group had no way out. They could only kill the monsters to survive. The 3 of them joined forces and turned into 3 terrifying attacks, attacking the 9 monsters. Boom boom boom. The collision of the gale and the divine light triggered a terrifying wave of energy that swept in all directions. Myriad Dao Dragon Emperor, Myriad Dao Dragon Emperor. Chapter 3802. Lu Ming and the other 2 joined forces and fought the 9 clones with all their might. Obviously, the 9 monsters were also going all out and attacking crazily. In the end, Lu Ming and the rest broke through the encirclement of the 9 monsters, but they also paid a price. Lu Ming was still fine. He had Qiu Qiu's armor, which offset most of the attack power. Although some of the gale cut through Qiu Qiu's armor, when it landed on Lu Ming's body, it did not cause much damage to Lu Ming. With Lu Ming's heaven-defying recovery ability, he was basically fine. However, the silver-haired old man and Jaundice were not so lucky. Dense wounds appeared on their bodies, all of which were cut by the gale. Moreover, these wounds healed very slowly because the gale contained a terrifying high temperature, which was constantly burning their wounds. The 2 of them suffered serious injuries, but fortunately, they were already close to the monster's body. Kill! 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 The 3 of them shouted and attacked the monster's body. Roar! The monster's body actually let out a beast-like roar, and a gale erupted from its body. Its arms turned into 2 large blades formed by the gale and slashed at Lu Ming and the rest. Boom! 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 After a few consecutive booms, the 3 of them trembled and could not help but retreat. The strength of the monster's body was very shocking, far above the clones. However, it was not so strong that they could still deal with it. The 3 of them retreated and charged at the monster's body again. Both sides fought fiercely, and after dozens of moves, there was no clear victor. This was because the monster's body was the same as the clones. After being destroyed, it would condense again. Hit the bead on the monster's head. Gu Mo transmitted his voice to Lu Ming. Attack the bead on its head. Lu Ming said to Jaundice and the silver-haired old man. The moonlight spear was like lightning, breaking through the void and piercing the bead on the monster's head. After receiving Lu Ming's reminder, the silver-haired old man and Jaundice also began to attack the bead on the monster's head. Sure enough, this made the monster nervous. It did not dare to attack freely and began to defend the bead on its head. It was absolutely effective. The 3 of them did not stop attacking the bead. Finally, Lu Ming seized the opportunity and stabbed the bead with his spear. Clang! The sound of metal clashing rang out. This spear did not shatter the bead, but the monster's body was sent flying by the powerful force. Jaundice and the silver-haired old man took the opportunity to attack out. Roar! The monster's body seemed to have been completely infuriated by Lu Ming's move. It let out a terrifying roar and the bead on its head emitted a dazzling glow. Then, a powerful force emerged. As soon as the energy from the bead surged out, it turned into a violent gust of wind. This gust of wind then condensed into figures. They were all monster avatars. The aura was the monster's outs. The 9 monster clones roared and pounced on Lu Ming, the silver-haired elder, and Jaundice. As soon as they reached the 3 of them, the 9 monster clones self-destructed. The 9 monster clones self-destructed, creating a destructive force that charged toward Lu Ming and the other 2. Not good. The expressions of the silver-haired old man, Jaundice, and Lu Ming changed drastically. The 3 of them retreated rapidly. In the process of retreating, they performed their strongest defensive techniques. 2 silver shields appeared in front of the silver-haired old man. A yellow mountain appeared in front of Jaundice. As for Lu Ming, he waved his left palm. All kinds of defensive secret skills in the cells in his body erupted, forming multiple layers of defense. The moment the 3 of them set up their defenses, the destructive force surged toward them. Rumble. Their defenses began to tremble violently. A few cracks instantly appeared on the silver-haired old man's silver shield. As for Jaundice's mountain-shaped treasure, it also shook violently and cracks appeared on its surface. Pung! Pung! In the next moment, the silver-haired old man's shield and Jaundice's mountain-shaped treasure shattered at the same time. The terrifying destructive force rushed toward them. The 2 of them screamed as their bodies were blasted thousands of miles away. They coughed up large mouthfuls of blood. Their bodies were tattered and severely injured. The 2 of them looked extremely terrified. They did not dare to stay any longer. They turned into 2 streaks of light and disappeared into the distance. They were so scared that they fled. While the silver-haired old man and Jaundice were blasted away, Lu Ming was also hit by the destructive force. His various secret techniques only lasted for a breath's time before they were destroyed. The terrifying destructive force bombarded Lu Ming's body. Clang! Clang! In the end, even Qiuqiu's armor was cut open. However, Qiuqiu's armor had already blocked a large portion of the attack. The force that landed on Lu Ming's body was very limited. Lu Ming was blasted away and coughed up large mouthfuls of blood. His injuries were quite serious, but he still managed to withstand it. What a terrifying force! Lu Ming was secretly alarmed. He wanted to copy the silver-haired old man and Jaundice and escape. At this moment, Bone Demon's voice sounded, "Now is a good opportunity. That monster has stimulated the power in the bead and unleashed a big move. It is now in a weakened state. Take the opportunity to take away that bead and destroy the will on it." Lu Ming immediately stopped in his tracks. Without any hesitation, he rushed towards the monster. The monster revealed a look of fear. It roared and actually turned to leave. However, how could Lu Ming let it leave? He raised his speed to the limit and caught up to the monster in a few flashes. He grabbed at the bead with his big hand. Bone Demon was right. The monster was now in a weakened state. Although it tried its best to resist, it did not have much power. Lu Ming's claw pierced through it and he successfully grabbed the bead. The bead vibrated non-stop. There was a wisp of spiritual will attached to it. This was the origin of the monster. A wisp of spiritual will attached to the bead and borrowed the power of the bead to condense Liefeng's body. Squeak! 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 It sounded like a mouse in panic. Die for me. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. The taboo force rushed towards the bead and began to erase this wisp of spiritual will. The taboo force was the most terrifying force in the world. This wisp of spiritual will could not stop it at all. It screamed a few times with unwillingness before it was completely obliterated by the taboo force. When this wisp of spiritual will was obliterated, the surrounding Liefeng suddenly became much smaller and calmer. It was not as violent as before. The bead also fell into Lu Ming's hand. What is this bead? It can actually erupt with such powerful energy? Lu Ming stared at the bead and pondered. Then, his spiritual will approached the bead, wanting to investigate it. Just as Lu Ming's spiritual will entered the bead, a shocking scene appeared. Lu Ming seemed to hear a rumble, and then the environment suddenly changed. Myriad Dao Dragon Emperor, Myriad Dao Dragon Emperor. Chapter 3803. With a bang, Lu Ming felt like he had arrived in an unfamiliar starry sky. I can't accept this. I can't accept this. In front of him, a man was standing in the starry sky, roaring. Every single strand of his hair stood on end. Terrifying energy surged out of his body unceasingly. A gale. The energy rushing out of the man's body was a gale. This gale was countless times more terrifying than the one Lu Ming and the others had encountered before. It swept through the starry sky, attacking Lu Ming. Not good, it's over. Lu Ming turned pale with fright. This gale was too strong. Compared to it, Lu Ming felt like an ant. He couldn't resist at all. In an instant, the gale dashed in front of Lu Ming. Just as Lu Ming thought that he was going to be killed by the gale, he realized that the gale did not hurt him at all. It dashed past him and went far away in an instant. It was as if his body was illusory, not real. What's going on? Could it be that everything I saw was fake? Was it all an illusion? Or was this just a projection from a certain time period? Various thoughts flashed through Lu Ming's mind. Whoosh! Gale was constantly rushing out of that man's body. This gale was too strong, so strong that it could destroy heaven and earth. The raging winds swept through the starry skies. Wherever they passed, all the planets were turned into ashes. Some of the planets had living beings living on them, and there were also powerful beings with high cultivation. However, none of these powerful beings could escape. They were all turned into ashes under the raging winds. Only a few resource planets collapsed. But the core metal remained, condensing into small pieces that floated in the starry sky. The boundless starry sky was engulfed by the raging winds, and everything was shrouded by them. Could this be the origin of the Gale Star River? Lu Ming's eyes widened. He was shocked by his own guess. However, this might be the truth. The Gale Star River might have been formed like this. The energy that emerged from a person's body could actually destroy an entire star river, turning it into a place where the gale would wreak havoc for billions of years. It was unknown what level his cultivation had reached. It was too terrifying. Lu Ming had once heard from the Measure Character Manual that someone had used the Ice Character Manual to freeze a galaxy. Lu Ming had thought that the Measure Character Manual was just bragging. How vast was a galaxy? It was almost boundless, containing countless planets and small worlds. How could such a vast territory be frozen by human strength? That wasn't like blowing up a planet. That was countless times harder than blowing up a planet. But now, Lu Ming believed it because the truth was right in front of his eyes. Ah, I'm unwilling. The man roared again. His hair and beard fluttered, and with a final boom, his entire body exploded. An even more terrifying energy swept through the starry sky. When the energy dissipated, a bead appeared in the starry sky. This bead was exactly the same as the one Lu Ming had grabbed before. So that was how the bead was formed. One of the 3,000 ancient secret techniques, Great Divine Wind Technique. Suddenly, a piece of information was transmitted to Lu Ming's mind. This piece of information was a secret skill. The 3,000 ancient secret techniques. Lu Ming was dumbfounded. The secret techniques in this world were roughly divided into 3 types. The first type was the secret techniques of the origin, which were comprehended from divine power. As long as one had enough talent, they could comprehend them from divine power. Furthermore, they had great potential and were powerful enough to comprehend them for a lifetime. The other type was the physique secret technique. The requirements to cultivate a physique secret technique were harsh. Not many people could successfully cultivate it. Those who could were practically all heavenly geniuses. The third type was the ordinary secret techniques. There were tens of thousands of ordinary secret techniques. There were all kinds of them. There were offensive, defensive, speed, support, and even alchemy, tool forging, and so on. This was also the type that most people cultivated. However, ordinary secret techniques were mostly used as support. They weren't very powerful. Even if they were cultivated to a high realm, it would be difficult for them to contend with the source secret techniques. However, there was a small portion of ordinary secret techniques that were special. That was the 3,000 ancient secret techniques. As the name suggested, there were 3,000 types of the 3,000 ancient secret techniques. These 3,000 ancient secret techniques were the strongest ordinary secret techniques in the world. They were extremely powerful and had amazing potential. It was said that cultivating the 3,000 ancient secret techniques to the peak was no worse than cultivating the source secret techniques to the peak. Moreover, the cultivation of the 3,000 ancient secret techniques mainly relied on one's comprehension. Those with high comprehension could continue to comprehend and improve their realm. There was no need to sever the shackles like the source secret techniques. However, the 3,000 ancient secret techniques were extremely difficult to cultivate and were too rare. As time passed, many of them were lost. They were extremely rare now. Lu Ming didn't expect to encounter one of the 3,000 ancient secret techniques here. Lu Ming was overjoyed. Lu Ming's current body was cultivating the taboo power. He needed to continuously integrate ordinary secret techniques. However, he had integrated more than 500 ordinary secret techniques, but none of them could take on great responsibilities alone. None of them were powerful. When Lu Ming fought now, he relied more on the taboo power and brute force. If there was one of the 3,000 ancient secret techniques, it would be different. Moreover, when the taboo body reached the end, he needed to create his own technique according to the thousands of secret techniques he cultivated and walk his own path. In that case, the stronger the secret technique integrated at the beginning, the better. The arrival of the great god wind technique was like adding wings to a tiger. At this moment, the surrounding scene changed again and disappeared. Lu Ming returned to the original world. Lu Ming, be careful, someone is attacking you. At this moment, Gu Mo reminded him. Boom! Swoosh! At the same time, Lu Ming sensed that there were terrifying attacks coming at him from behind and on his right. The power was shocking and the speed was very fast. It was so fast that it was difficult for Lu Ming to dodge. The person who attacked had grasped the timing very well. Fortunately, Xiaofan had turned into armor and was wearing Lu Ming's body. At the critical moment, Lu Ming's figure rushed forward and narrowly avoided the attack from the right. However, he couldn't avoid the attack from behind. Boom! A palm print from behind landed heavily on Lu Ming's back. Lu Ming's body was blasted forward. His blood was in turmoil and he spat out a mouthful of blood. However, as Lu Ming rushed forward, he more or less dissipated a part of the force. Moreover, Xiaofan's armor also blocked a part of the force. Therefore, Lu Ming's injury wasn't very serious. However, a few bones on his back were broken and were recovering quickly. Lu Ming quickly turned around and glanced around. His eyes were filled with cold light. As expected, the ones who attacked him were Jaundice and the silver-haired old man who had escaped previously. Previously, the two of them retreated with injuries. At this moment, their injuries were much better, although they hadn't fully recovered. Gu Mo, how long has it been since I got that bead? Lu Ming secretly communicated with Gu Mo one day. Gu Mo replied. Myriad Dao Dragon Emperor. Myriad Dao Dragon Emperor. Chapter 3804. One day. Gu Mo informed him that a day had passed since Lu Ming grabbed the bead and entered that magical world. It was no wonder that the silver-haired elder and Jaundice had recovered from their injuries. "Why did the two of you sneak attack me?" Lu Ming asked coldly. The silver-haired elder and Jaundice stared at the bead in Lu Ming's hand, emitting a scorching radiance. A divine king's lifespan was 5 stellar years, a divine lord's lifespan was 10 stellar years, and a divine emperor's lifespan was even 100 stellar years. The silver-haired elder and Jaundice were old monsters who had lived for dozens of stellar years. Their minds were extremely sharp. They had been severely injured by the monster and had fled in a panic. However, they quickly reacted and realized the key point. After the monster unleashed its energy, its aura weakened. It was clearly in a weakened state. Of course, they were cautious by nature and did not dare to return rashly. Instead, they waited for their injuries to recover before sneaking back. When they returned, they did not see the monster at all. They only saw Lu Ming holding the bead in a daze. Needless to say, that bead was definitely a precious treasure. The two of them attacked without hesitation. They wanted to kill Lu Ming first and then snatch the bead. As for the friendship they had with Lu Ming when they fought the enemy together, what was that? Could it be eaten? Fortunately, Lu Ming woke up at the critical moment and blocked the attack. Hee hee. The silver-haired elder sneered. He stared at the bead in Lu Ming's hand and said, "Little brother, we obtained this bead when we fought the monster together. Now, hand it over." "That's right. This treasure should be divided equally between us," Jaundice added. "If you want to divide the treasure equally, you should have just told me. Why did you sneak attack me? Since you've ambushed me, don't even think about getting this treasure," Lu Ming said coldly. With a thought, the bead was kept in his storage ring. The silver-haired elder and Jaundice's faces darkened. "Kid, you have to think carefully about whether you have the ability to take it all for yourself," the silver-haired elder said coldly. "You can try," Lu Ming said indifferently. The silver spear that Qiuqiu had transformed into pointed at the silver-haired old man. "Brother Huang, it seems that this brat is stubborn. Let's join forces and kill this brat first, then we can discuss the distribution of the treasures. What do you think?" The silver-haired old man looked at Jaundice. "Okay." Jaundice's reply was very simple. As the sound of his voice faded, he stepped out, and a powerful aura gushed towards Lu Ming. The silver-haired old man's long hair fluttered as he charged towards Lu Ming. "Kill!" Lu Ming shouted and took the initiative to attack. His silver spear light was like a rainbow, piercing through the void and shooting towards the silver-haired old man and Jaundice. At the same time, the silver-haired old man and Jaundice also made their moves. Two terrifying attacks attacked Lu Ming, fiercely colliding with the moonlight spear light. Wang! At the moment of collision, the moonlight spear light shook violently. The moonlight shone brightly, illuminating the starry sky. The moonlight spear light pierced through the silver-haired old man and Jaundice's attacks, and then flashed past, leaving 2 bloody holes in their bodies. The two of them retreated at full speed, looking at Lu Ming in astonishment. "Your attack power, how is that possible?" The silver-haired old man and Jaundice shouted at the same time. They were astonished. How could Lu Ming's attack power be so strong? 1 against 2, and he had managed to injure them in 1 move. They didn't know that this was actually Qiuqiu's real attack power. Previously, when they had faced that monster, Qiuqiu hadn't been able to use its full power. That monster had been completely condensed by the strong wind, so it had been easy to destroy it. However, it was useless to destroy it, because it would condense again. It was as if Qiuqiu's attack had hit nothing but air. At that time, Xiaofan hadn't been able to use its full power. Xiaofan had the strength of the second godly emperor layer, and after turning into a silver spear, it could defeat or even kill cultivators of the fourth godly emperor layer. As for Jaundice and the silver-haired old man, they had been injured and hadn't recovered yet, so their fighting strength wasn't at its peak. Naturally, they had been injured by Lu Ming and Xiaoqiu's joint attack. "Die!" shouted Lu Ming. He attacked the two of them again, not giving them a chance to catch their breath. The silver spear light fell like a meteor, piercing towards the silver-haired old man and Jaundice. At the same time, 3 gravity pearls flew out, and a powerful gravitational force enveloped the two of them. Even though the 3 gravity pearls couldn't have a decisive effect on cultivators of the fourth godly emperor layer, they could still interfere with them more or less. The two of them were startled, and hastily tried to defend themselves. However, they were already injured, and their fighting strength wasn't at its peak. They were also suppressed by the gravity pearls, so their fighting strength was even weaker. They were no match for Lu Ming and Xiaoqiu. The two of them were pierced by the spear light. Jaundice's heart was pierced by the spear light, and he was nailed to the ground. He coughed up blood, and his face was deathly pale. The silver-haired old man's stomach was pierced by the spear light, and he was sent flying a few hundred li away. Lu Ming wouldn't miss such an opportunity. He didn't waste any time. He fused with his spear, and turned into a dazzling spear light which shot towards Jaundice. "No!" Jaundice let out a roar of despair. In the next instant, the silver spear had already pierced through his forehead. His soul naturally couldn't escape and was crushed by the destructive power of the spear light. Jaundice had died. A few hundred li away, the silver-haired old man was scared out of his wits. He didn't care about his injuries and started running away. "Humph!" Lu Ming groaned coldly. He turned into a spear light and chased after the silver-haired old man. The silver-haired old man had been severely injured, and his speed had decreased greatly. Lu Ming chased after him with all his strength, and the distance between them was getting shorter and shorter. "Little brother, it's a misunderstanding. It's all a misunderstanding. I don't want your treasure anymore. It's yours," shouted the silver-haired old man in fear. "It's too late to say that. When you attacked me by surprise, you didn't show any mercy," Lu Ming said coldly. "Little brother, I was wrong. I was blinded by lard just now. I won't do it again. As long as you let me go, I'll be your slave," the silver-haired old man shouted. Seeing that the distance between him and Lu Ming was getting closer, he was so scared that he couldn't stop trembling. Lu Ming couldn't be bothered with him. He controlled the gravity orb, and the strong gravity pressed down on the silver-haired old man. The silver-haired old man's speed was slowed down by the gravity, and Lu Ming caught up with him in an instant. "Little bastard, I'll fight it out with you." Seeing that Lu Ming didn't intend to let him go, the silver-haired old man became ruthless. His face was distorted, and he turned around to attack Lu Ming. However, it was useless against Lu Ming. The silver spear light flashed. The silver-haired old man, who was already injured, couldn't withstand a single blow. He barely blocked 2 moves before being swept by the spear. His body exploded, leaving only his head behind as he fled frantically. Lu Ming raised his hand and thrust out his spear. The silver-haired old man's head exploded, and his body and soul were destroyed. Chapter 3805. After killing the silver-haired old man, Lu Ming kept the storage rings of the silver-haired old man and Jaundice. Then, he took out the bead again and started to think. Lu Ming actually obtained the 3,000 ancient secret techniques from this bead. Moreover, he felt that the bead contained a terrifying flame storm. Previously, that monster had activated a wisp of energy from the bead and formed 9 clones to self-destruct. Lu Ming was considering whether he should cultivate the Great Divine Wind technique. Senior Bone Demon, do you think I should cultivate the Great Divine Wind technique? Lu Ming asked Bone Demon. Cultivate, this is the 3,000 ancient secret techniques, why not? Bone Demon said. But I saw a powerful existence self-destruct in the end. Lu Ming hesitated and told Bone Demon about the scene he saw before. So it's because of this, then there's no need to worry. Cultivating the Great Divine Wind technique will definitely not cause self-destruction. The reason why the man you mentioned self-destructed, I reckon that his cultivation had reached a certain level and he wanted to break through to the next realm. In the end, he failed and self-destructed. The further one cultivates, the harder it is to improve. Breaking through is also dangerous. This is very normal. Bone Demon explained. Lu Ming suddenly understood and finally felt relieved. He was worried that the powerful existence he saw had self-destructed because he was cultivating the Great Divine Wind technique. Now that it turned out not to be the case, he could cultivate in peace. Lu Ming planned to cultivate the Great Divine Wind technique here. There was still more than a year before the 3 years he set. Moreover, this place was filled with strong winds. It was the best place to cultivate the Great Divine Wind technique. It was simply blessed by the heavens and had a great effect on the cultivation of the Great Divine Wind technique. Lu Ming kept the bead and silently went through the cultivation method of the Great Divine Wind technique in his mind. Then, he began to cultivate. The 3,000 ancient secret techniques were very difficult to cultivate. Even the entry level was astonishingly difficult. Ordinary people might cultivate for a lifetime and still not be able to touch the threshold. Even a genius would need to spend a lot of time to cultivate before they could succeed. However, for Lu Ming, it was not that difficult. Firstly, Lu Ming's comprehension was at an abnormal level. Secondly, Lu Ming had already cultivated more than 500 kinds of secret skills. He could comprehend them by analogy. He had experience in cultivating secret skills that others could not. Thirdly, this place was filled with strong winds that had not dissipated for hundreds of millions of years. This was left behind by the terrifying expert who cultivated the Great Divine Wind technique. Lu Ming could use it as a reference. It was equivalent to half an expert guiding him. With these 3 conditions, it was not difficult for Lu Ming to cultivate the entry level. Time passed day by day. In the blink of an eye, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 1 year, soon, more than a year's time. Whoosh! Between heaven and earth, a figure flashed rapidly. Every time, a figure flashed brought up. Lu Ming seemed to be wrapped in a layer of strong wind. Wherever he passed by, the strong wind would automatically disperse. It did not affect Lu Ming at all. Boom! In the end, Lu Ming condensed a hurricane. With a palm strike, the hurricane formed a terrifying force that cut the void into pieces. Huff! Lu Ming let out a long breath and stopped. The wind around his body also dissipated. As expected of the Great Divine Wind technique. It's so powerful. It's far from being comparable to ordinary secret techniques. Lu Ming praised with a smile on his face. After more than a year of cultivation, Lu Ming finally succeeded in cultivating the Great Divine Wind technique. It turned into a secret technique rune and integrated into a cell. Lu Ming had just succeeded in cultivating the Great God Wind technique, but he discovered that the power of the Great God Wind technique was far above that of ordinary secret skills. Under the activation of his taboo power, the power was even stronger than that of the secret skill of the origin that had severed 3 shackles. It seems that I still need to spend more time on the Great Divine Wind technique in the future. Lu Ming thought. The Great Divine Wind technique was different from other secret techniques. For other secret techniques, it was integrated into the cells and let the scattered soul in the cells slowly comprehend it. After a long time, it would naturally increase in maturity. However, the Great Divine Wind technique was too slow to be comprehended. It needed Lu Ming to personally comprehend it and increase its power. It would become one of Lu Ming's killer moves. And this round bead, with a thought, the round bead appeared in Lu Ming's hand. Lu Ming named it the Gale Bead. In the past year, Lu Ming had also taken the time to study the Gale Bead. The Gale Bead contained a terrifying flaming storm. It gave Lu Ming a feeling that if it was released, it could destroy the world. Unfortunately, the Gale Bead contained layers of seals. It was difficult to release the flaming storm in one go. If he wanted to release the storm in the bead, he needed to use the Great Divine Wind technique to guide it. The stronger the Great Divine Wind technique was, the more seals it could break and the bigger the flaming storm it could release. With Lu Ming's current mastery of the Great Divine Wind technique, he could release a terrifying force. This force was far beyond his own strength. This could be Lu Ming's killer move. Lu Ming kept it carefully. 3 years are almost up. I wonder how the sky prides of the various clans are doing now. Let's go out and meet them. Lu Ming smiled. Now that his combat strength had increased greatly, he was looking forward to the clash with the sky prides of the various clans. Lu Ming walked towards the exit. Now that he had mastered the Great Divine Wind technique, the gale was ineffective against him. His speed was much faster. Soon, he left the Gale Galaxy. After a while, he returned to the Fengdu Sword Sect. As soon as Lu Ming returned to the Fengdu Sword Sect, sect leader Wang knew about it and immediately came to see Lu Ming. Sect leader Wang, you finally dare to come to see me. Lu Ming said indifferently. Sect leader Wang smiled bitterly and said, Little brother Mu Yun, please forgive me. My Fengdu Sword Sect is just an ordinary force, and those sky prides are all from powerful races on the list of 10,000 races. If I were to go against them, the Fengdu Sword Sect would soon disappear from the desolate universe. Lu Ming could understand sect leader Wang. Those powerful races were indeed not something the Fengdu Sword Sect could afford to offend. Just now, he was just complaining. Sect leader Wang, how have the sky prides of the various clans been in the past few years? Have they come to the Iron Sea Star region? Lu Ming asked. They're here, of course they're here, and there's a lot of them. Sect leader Wang said, ever since you left, sky prides have been gathering from all over the desolate universe. Some want to challenge you, and some are just here to watch the show. However, since you're not here, these sky prides will stay in the Iron Sea Star region. They thought that the elf princess Ling Yue was in the Iron Sea Star region and searched everywhere. Unfortunately, they couldn't find her. However, in the past few years, the Iron Sea Star region has been very lively. It's rare for these sky prides to gather, so they often hold various gatherings to spar with each other, waiting for the 3-year agreement with you. After sect leader Wang's explanation, Lu Ming had a rough understanding of the situation in the past few years. Myriad Dao Dragon Emperor, Myriad Dao Dragon Emperor. Chapter 3806. After sect leader Wang's explanation, Lu Ming had a rough idea of what was going on. Are there any gatherings of geniuses? Lu Ming asked. Are you going to look for them? Sect leader Wang said. Since they're already here, it's not a good idea for me to not show up. The 3 years are almost up, it's time for me to meet them. Lu Ming said with a smile. Little brother Mu Yun, let me warn you. Don't be careless. Even though there are no monstrous geniuses above the godly emperor realm, there are still some terrifying geniuses who are extremely powerful. It's easy for a quasi-emperor to kill a godly emperor. Sect leader Wang reminded with a solemn expression. Although Lu Ming was extremely talented, his cultivation was still a little weak. Sect leader Wang was afraid that Lu Ming wouldn't be a match for those geniuses. Thank you for your concern, sect leader Wang. I know what I'm doing. Lu Ming said. Seeing Lu Ming so confident, sect leader Wang didn't try to persuade him anymore. There's a gathering of geniuses on planet Kun soon. You can make it if you go there now. All right. Lu Ming nodded and went straight to planet Kun without stopping. Planet Kun, Kunming Lake was vast and the lake water was as clear as a mirror. One could see many divine fish swimming around in the lake. There was a small island in the center of the lake. At this moment, many geniuses were gathered on the island. These geniuses were from various races and they were all there for Lu Ming. In the past few years, they couldn't find the elven princess, so they often held gatherings to spar with each other while waiting for Lu Ming's arrival. Of course, in addition to the geniuses of various races, there were also geniuses from the 18 forces in the Iron Sea Star Zone. These people were not there to challenge Lu Ming, but to make friends with the geniuses of various races. There was a battle platform in the center of the island. At this moment, two young men were sparring on the battle platform. Both of them were 9th-level divine lords and their combat strength was similar. They fought back and forth and it was very lively. Around them, many young men were drinking and watching the battle while chatting. Do you think Mu Yun will show up? It's been almost 3 years. Hehe, do you think he will appear again? The reason he said he would fight again in 3 years was just to find an excuse to delay the time. Now that the geniuses of various clans have gathered, how could he have the guts to come out? I think so too. It's best if that guy doesn't come out. His reputation will be ruined from then on. The elven princess will naturally not marry such a person. Even if he appears, there are many people who can suppress him and make him lose face. What is he? He even dared to reject the elven princess? Who does he think he is? Everyone was discussing. When it came to Lu Ming, some sneered and ridiculed him, while others had cold gazes. These people's hearts were filled with complicated emotions. If Lu Ming agreed to marry the elf princess, they would be unhappy. They would think that Lu Ming was not qualified and would want to kill Lu Ming. However, they were even more displeased that Lu Ming had rejected the elf princess. They had tried so hard to woo her, but Lu Ming had rejected them. Didn't that mean that they were even more trashy and were pursuing something that others did not want? In short, they wanted to suppress Lu Ming and make Lu Ming lose face. In this way, not only would they gain face, but Lu Ming and the elf princess's marriage would also be ruined. It was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Look, who's that? Suddenly, someone pointed at the lake in the east and shouted. Everyone couldn't help but look in that direction. On the lake in the east, a young man was walking on the waves, looking very suave. This young man was naturally Lu Ming. It's Mu Yun. He finally showed up. I didn't expect him to really show up. Very good. Many people stood up and revealed cold gazes. The 2 young men who were sparring on the battle platform also stopped and looked at Lu Ming. Whoosh! Lu Ming's speed was very fast. In a few steps, he arrived at the small island. He flew in the air and landed on the battle platform in the middle of the island. The 2 young men in the battle platform quickly retreated, not daring to face Lu Ming. In fact, although there were many geniuses present, not many of them dared to fight with Lu Ming. After all, back then, Lu Ming had defeated Xiao Dao, who was a famous genius among the quasi-emperors. He was indeed powerful. Everyone's eyes fell on Lu Ming. Mu Yun, you're finally here. Fight with me again. A voice was heard. A purple light flashed and a young man appeared on the battle platform. Xiang Prefecture. This young man was actually from Xiang Prefecture. Xiang Prefecture is going to fight. I heard that his Eastern Purple Chi technique has made a breakthrough again. He wants to defeat Mu Yun and reclaim his honor. In the Purple Sun Prefecture, he can be considered a top figure. Not many people can break through immediately after being defeated after being humiliated. Many people were discussing. Lu Ming glanced at Xiang Prefecture and shook his head. You're not my match. There's no need to fight anymore. How would you know that I'm not your match if we haven't fought? Lu Ming, aren't you overconfident? Xiang Prefecture said. His body was shrouded in purple light and his battle intent was strong. After being defeated by Lu Ming, he didn't feel disheartened. Instead, he felt humiliated and made a breakthrough in his Eastern Purple Chi technique, allowing his battle strength to reach a higher level. Back then, it wasn't easy for Lu Ming to defeat him. There was a limit to how much stronger he was. Now that his battle strength had increased, he was confident that he could compete with Lu Ming. Is this enough? Lu Ming wasn't interested in talking to Xiang Prefecture. He directly released his aura. The people of the Xiangzhou stared with their eyes open wide. 7th level Divine Lord. Xiang Prefecture opened his mouth with a hoarse voice, his eyes full of disbelief. He clearly remembered that in the Resource Alliance agreement, Lu Ming was still just a 5th level Divine Lord. In the end, borrowing his pressure, Lu Ming successfully broke through and reached 6th level Divine Lord, then defeated him. But how long had it been since the Resource Alliance agreement? Just a few years, Lu Ming actually broke through again. When did Divine Lord Realm become so easy to break through? The key was that when Lu Ming was a 6th level Divine Lord, his battle strength was already very terrifying. This kind of prodigy, each breakthrough, his battle strength would have a tremendous increase. This was also to say that after Lu Ming broke through to 7th level Divine Lord, he was not Lu Ming's match at all. No wonder Lu Ming would say that he wasn't Lu Ming's match and didn't need to fight anymore. Indeed, he didn't need to fight anymore. Even if he made a move, it would also be seeking humiliation. At this moment, the battle intent on Xiang Prefecture's body disappeared without a trace. His eyes revealed a hint of dejection. Swoosh! Xiang Prefecture turned around and left, directly leaving Star Kun. His heart was already in a mess. He needed to find a place to adjust his mentality. The following great battle, he did not wish to watch anymore. Xiang Prefecture actually left? What's going on? Didn't even fight and he lost his fighting spirit. Truly a good-for-nothing. There was an uproar at the scene. Most people did not understand why Xiang Prefecture directly left. They did not know that Lu Ming's cultivation rose from 5th level Divine Lord to 7th level Divine Lord within a short few years. If they knew, wonder what their expressions would be. Myriad Dao Dragon Sovereign, Myriad Dao Dragon Sovereign. Chapter 3807. What a piece of trash. He's a disgrace to the Ziying race. On one of the seats in the crowd, a purple-robed young man sat in a carefree manner. A cold and disdainful voice came from his mouth. Many people looked at this person with grave gazes. They recognized who he was. He was Zitai Tsang, the prodigy of the Ziyuan race. The Ziyuan race was ranked 67th on the Eldritch 10,000 races list, which was stronger than the Ziying race. Legend had it that the Ziyuan race and the Ziying race used to be the same race a long time ago, but for some reason, the two races split and became the Ziyuan race and the Ziying race. Both races were ranked in the top 100 of the Eldritch 10,000 races list, which showed how terrifying the two races were. However, the Ziyuan race had always thought that they were the orthodox race and looked down on the Ziying race, which was why Zitai Tsang mocked them. After mocking them, Zitai Tsang stood up, and purple light burst out from his eyes. He stepped out and landed on the battle platform. Zitai Tsang is going to attack. Many people's eyes lit up. Zitai Tsang was also a quasi-emperor, but he was more famous and stronger than Pashao Dao in the Ziyang state. In particular, the powerful prodigies present all smiled. Zitai Tsang's attack was enough to test Lu Ming's strength, so they could respond. Boom! Zitai Tsang's body was enveloped by a layer of purple light, which was filled with a luxurious aura. It looked very similar to the Xiang state. He's going to attack. Quick! Many people took out their illusory divine jades and directly broadcast the battle live. Many people across the universe immediately received the news and opened their illusory divine jades to watch the battle. Mu Yun, make your move. Use all your strength. I want to suppress you in front of everyone. Zitai Tsang said in a domineering manner. Let's see if you have the ability to force me to use my full strength. Lu Ming said indifferently. How arrogant. Purple Sun Divine Art, Purple Qi from the East. Zitai Tsang shouted and clenched his fist. 2 wisps of purple qi flew over from the distant sky and were caught by Zitai Tsang. He was also using the purple qi from the east, which was exactly the same as the one in the Xiang state. It seemed that the 2 races were from the same origin. Kill! A pair of purple wings condensed behind Zitai Tsang's back. With a flap of his wings, his figure charged towards Lu Ming like a bolt of purple lightning. At the same time, the 2 strands of purple gas in his hands turned into 2 purple divine swords and slashed towards Lu Ming. Space was sliced apart like a piece of paper by the purple sword. Boom! Boom! Lu Ming's attack was very simple. He directly swung his fist to meet the attack. When he made his move, Lu Ming had already activated 5 times his combat power. Clang! Clang! Lu Ming's fists were like 2 sledgehammers as they smashed onto the purple divine sword. An earth-shattering boom erupted as the 2 figures rapidly retreated. However, Lu Ming only retreated 3 steps before he stabilized his figure. As for Zitai Tsang, he retreated explosively. He retreated several dozen steps before he staggered and stabilized himself. By the time he steadied himself, his face was already flushed red. In the first move, he was completely at a disadvantage. Your strength is not bad. You are slightly stronger than Xiang state. However, you are no match for me now. A thought flashed through Lu Ming's mind. Previously, Lu Ming had not used the gravity orb. He had only used his own strength to suppress Zitai Tsang. One should know that Xiang state could kill an ordinary first-layer divine emperor. Zitai Tsang was stronger than Xiang state. He could easily kill an ordinary first-layer divine emperor. He was a terrifying monster. He was far from being comparable to an ordinary person. However, Lu Ming had only used his own strength to suppress him. Purple Origin Divine Armor. Zitai Tsang shouted as his purple hair fluttered in the wind. An armor appeared on his body and wrapped around him. This was a secret treasure refined by the Xiang tribe. Once worn, it could increase one's combat power. It could increase one's offensive and defensive strength. Boom! After putting on the Purple Origin Divine Armor, Zitai Tsang charged toward Lu Ming with a violent aura, just like a violent dragon. The 2 purple swords in his hands were even more powerful. They whistled as they slashed towards Lu Ming. Interesting. Lu Ming's lips curled up. He did not use the gravity orb. Instead, he used his forbidden strength to fight back. Lu Ming rushed out. All the cells in his body were trembling. Apart from the great divine wind skill, he gathered all the offensive secret skills on his fists and threw them out continuously. The violent fist energy created a spatial storm and crushed towards Zitai Tsang. Boom! 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 The 2 of them clashed fiercely. In the blink of an eye, they had exchanged dozens of blows. The terrifying energy shocked many people. Many people who were watching the battle through the illusory divine jade turned solemn. Such combat power had completely surpassed the Divine Lord realm. Ordinary first-layer divine emperors would not be able to participate in such a battle. If they got close, they would be injured. He was already considered a top genius in the primitive universe. However, Although Zi Taizong's combat power had increased with the help of the Purple Origin divine armor and could temporarily fight against Lu Ming, he was still no match for Lu Ming. After exchanging dozens of blows, Lu Ming's fist hit the Purple Origin divine armor on Zi Taizong's chest. Lu Ming's fist contained hundreds of offensive secret skills and taboo powers. All of them erupted. Even though the Purple Origin divine armor had amazing defensive strength, it could not withstand the blow. The place where it was hit caved in. The terrifying power hit Zi Taizong's body, causing him to groan. His body flew out like a cannonball and blood spurted out of his mouth. Lu Ming was at a disadvantage in one move. He would not give him another chance. His figure followed closely behind Zi Taizong and his fists landed like a violent storm. Although Zi Taizong tried his best to block, he could only block a few blows. After that, he was hit continuously. His body flew out of the battle platform and he coughed out blood. Dozens of his bones were broken and cracks appeared on the Purple Origin divine armor. Zi Taizong had lost, and he had lost miserably. This made the faces of most of the spectators turn ugly. Mu Yun's combat power has increased again. He's even stronger than when he fought against Xiao Dao. Indeed. When he fought against Xiao Dao, he used 2 stone beads that could release gravity. However, he did not use them this time. This means that he still has a trump card. Everyone's faces became more solemn as they discussed. Who else wants to fight? Lu Ming stood in the arena and continued to issue challenges. His fighting spirit was soaring. Most of the youths present looked at each other. In the end, they all looked at a few people. Although there were many elites present, there were not many who could fight against Lu Ming. I'll do it. At that moment, a youth stood up. His long robe fluttered in the wind. It's Sha Lu 19 from the Sha-In tribe. Many people recognized this youth. The Sha-In tribe was ranked 56th on the Eldritch 10,000 tribes list. It was a tribe more powerful than the Purple Origin race. Sha Lu 19 from the Sha-In tribe was one of the best in the Sha-In tribe. He was very powerful and was very famous among the quasi-emperors in the Eldritch universe. This was because this person was close to being on the quasi-emperors list. Chapter 3808. The top 100 quasi-emperors list was not an official list. It was a list made by many people in their spare time. It imitated the Universe Genius list and listed 100 quasi-emperors. These 100 quasi-emperors could be said to be the ceiling of the quasi-emperors. Each one of them was terrifying and extremely powerful. Slaughter 19, who killed the Seal tribe, was a peerless genius who almost made it into the top 100 quasi-emperors list. Everyone looked hopeful. They hoped that killing 19 would be able to suppress Lu Ming. Slaughter 19 stepped into the air and landed on the battle platform, standing opposite Lu Ming. A cold and terrifying murderous intent permeated the air, causing the temperature of the entire world to drop. Mu Yun, very good. It's the first time I've seen such a battle prowess at the 7th level of the Divine Lord realm. I will suppress you and trample on your pride to make my name as an invincible one, helping me ascend to the Quasi-Emperor's top 100 list. Slaughter 19 clasped his hands behind his back, looking unparalleled in the world. Needless to say, this person was extremely conceited. Lu Ming almost laughed. This guy had not even made it into the top 100 quasi-emperors list. How could he be so confident? Therefore, Lu Ming said directly, you haven't even made it into the top 100 quasi-emperors list, yet you are so arrogant. Aren't you afraid that others will laugh their heads off? What did you say? Slaughter 19's face darkened. His murderous intent became even colder. Well, I will make it simple. I said that you are a piece of trash. Do you understand? Lu Ming said indifferently. Boy, how dare you insult me? You are courting death. Slaughter 19 jumped up like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. He stared at Lu Ming with a ferocious expression. Dazzling rays of light burst forth from his body. 2 runes appeared on his palms and he blasted them toward Lu Ming. The 2 seals exuded terrifying fluctuations and contained terrifying power. They directly shattered the void and pressed toward Lu Ming. However, Lu Ming threw out 2 punches and shattered the 2 seals. However, this was only the prelude to Slaughter 19's attack. Madra of Slaughter, Madra of absolute death. Shedding 19 roared and waved their hands. Countless talisman seals appeared around them, each of which glowed with divine light and surged with murderous intent. Boom! 9 consecutive talismans gathered together and shot toward Lu Ming. Its power was many times stronger than the previous 2 talismans. The killing imprint race was born with the ability to control the killing sigil. The godly energy they cultivated was the godly energy of Slaughter. The origin secret technique they awakened was the Slaughter imprint technique. When cultivated to the peak, they could slaughter everything under the heavens. It was incomparably terrifying. Wherever the Slaughter sigil passed, the void was constantly destroyed. With the power of destruction, it charged towards Lu Ming. Boom! Boom! Lu Ming clenched his fists, trying to resist. However, when Lu Ming's fists collided with the Slaughter Madra, he felt waves of terrifying Slaughter energy rushing towards him. Lu Ming's body shook violently, and he couldn't help retreating a few steps. Mu Yun has been pushed back. He's at a disadvantage. He's going to lose. When the surrounding elites saw that Lu Ming was forced to retreat, they jumped to their feet excitedly as if they had been injected with chicken blood. They were all supreme talents from various races, but during this period, they were suppressed by Lu Ming, a mere disciple of the Fengdu sword sect, to the point that they couldn't even lift their heads. They were extremely sullen. When they saw that Lu Ming was finally at a disadvantage, they naturally couldn't suppress their excitement. The Slaughter Madra of the Slaughter Madra tribe is indeed powerful. Lu Ming muttered to himself. He couldn't help but sigh at the terrifying talents of these races. Lu Ming might not be a match for Slaughter 19 without the help of the gravity orb. This wasn't because Lu Ming was too weak, but because his opponent was too strong. Where did Lu Ming hang out in the past? It was just the Taishu dynasty, a pseudo-universe level force. How many supreme talents could there be? The Taishu dynasty was nothing in the vast chaotic universe. It was just a speck of dust. And the opponent he was facing now was the top monstrous talent in the entire chaotic universe. In the chaotic universe, how many forces, how many supreme talents, it was hard to count clearly. As for Massacre 19, he was ranked near the top 100 among the countless demonic geniuses and quasi-emperor level demonic geniuses. This kind of person was also someone who had supreme opportunities and terrifying talents. His battle strength itself was abnormally powerful. It was naturally not that easy to deal with him. Lu Ming being able to fight against him as a 7th level divine lord already showed the terror of the taboo body. But in the vast universe, there were countless supreme talents. Some people could even contend with the taboo body at the same level. It was also normal. Therefore, Slaughter 19 was very proud. He had the capital to be proud. Kill. After Slaughter 19 saw that Lu Ming was pushed back, his aura became even more violent. One after another, Slaughter runes charged toward Lu Ming. Gravity orb. Lu Ming's heart stirred. With a wave of his hand, the gravity orb flew out. However, Lu Ming did not use 3 gravity pearls. He only used 2 of them. 2 gravity orbs were enough to deal with Slaughter 19. Buzz. The 2 gravity orbs emitted a powerful gravitational force, enveloping Slaughter 19. Break for me. Slaughter 19 roared. His Slaughter seal technique burst forth. Several slaughter seal technique actually turned into slaughter swords, slashing through the void, actually wanting to break the gravitational force. He was clearly prepared. He had seen the battle between Lu Ming and Broken Knife before. Only Lu Ming had a stone orb that could release gravity and had been on guard. However, he still underestimated the gravity orb. Although the slaughter sword slashed open the void, it did not break the gravitational force. The powerful gravitational force pressed down on him, making his body tremble. The slaughter seal technique surrounding him also trembled. And the slaughter seal technique attacking Lu Ming also trembled, its speed slowing down a lot. Lu Ming's figure flashed, avoiding several slaughter seal technique attacks. His body was like a flickering shadow, charging toward Slaughter 19, both fists blasting out continuously. Kill! Slaughter 19 roared, using all his strength. The slaughter seal technique around him spun rapidly, shining with divine light. One after another, it blasted toward Lu Ming. Boom! 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 Lu Ming swung his fists, colliding head-on with the slaughter seal technique. In an instant, the two had exchanged dozens of blows. Finally, some of the slaughter seal technique could not withstand Lu Ming's attack and were blown apart by Lu Ming's fists. The slaughter seal technique was like a violent current, while Lu Ming went against the current, breaking through the current, approaching Slaughter 19. In the end, Lu Ming defeated Massacre 19's last Massacre seal with one punch. The violent fist force bombarded Massacre 19's body. Massacre 19 gave a muffled snort and his body flew out of the fighting ring. He landed on the small island and coughed out mouthfuls of blood. He could not move at that moment. He was severely injured by Lu Ming's punch. And this was after Lu Ming showed mercy. Otherwise, he would definitely end up with his body and soul destroyed. Slaughter 19 was defeated. The faces of the geniuses present were extremely ugly. Even Slaughter 19 was no match for Lu Ming. Who else could be a match for Lu Ming? Chapter 3809. There was silence on Kunming Island. Those who were watching the battle through the illusory divine jade in the universe were also silent. Lu Ming's combat strength had really shocked them. It was really shocking for a 7th-level divine lord to have such combat strength. Who else wants to fight? Lu Ming stood on the battle platform and continued to challenge. However, no one around the battle platform accepted the challenge. Today, there were no peerless demonic geniuses on the top 100 quasi-emperors list. The strongest ones were only demonic geniuses close to the top 100 quasi-emperors list. However, even Massacre 19 was not Lu Ming's match. Would others be able to change the outcome? Lu Ming's eyes swept across the crowd. He could sense that there were a few people who had strong fighting spirit and wanted to fight, but they had scruples. No one else wants to fight? It turns out that your strength is only a so-so. No wonder you don't have the guts to pursue the elven princess and come to find trouble with me. Unfortunately, you found the wrong person. Lu Ming's voice resounded throughout the crowd. Damn it! Damn this guy! The young geniuses around gritted their teeth. Lu Ming's words were like slaps on their faces, making them feel ashamed. They wanted to rush out and fight Lu Ming, but they held back when they thought of Lu Ming's strength. They were extremely sullen. Who knew that a mere disciple of the Fengdu sword sect was so abnormal? If they had known, they wouldn't have mustered so many people and rashly rushed over. Now, they were in a difficult position. Many people were watching. Even the elven princess was watching. Some of them even wanted to turn off the illusory divine jade. However, if they turned it off now, wouldn't it mean that they were afraid of Lu Ming and didn't dare to open the illusory divine jade? Looking at a genius who was glaring at him, Lu Ming smiled calmly and said, "I know there are some experts among you. How about this? I'll give you a chance. If you want to fight, come at me together." "What? Lu Ming actually asked them to fight together?" Hearing those words, many people were immediately enraged. He was being looked down upon and looked down upon. "What? Don't dare. Come on, I'll take it all." Lu Ming continued. "You said it yourself. Don't blame us for bullying you with numbers." Someone spoke up, his intentions stirred. "That's right. Since he's so confident, let's spar with him." Another person spoke. "You talk too much. If you want to fight, then let's fight." Lu Ming said. "Since he wants to fight, we'll fulfill his wish." A bald young man took the lead and rushed onto the fighting ring. As soon as the bald young man moved, several other people also moved and rushed onto the Colosseum. Of course, the Sky Prides present did not rush up like a swarm of bees. There were only a total of 3 young men on the stage. These 3 young men were all monstrous geniuses at the same level as Massacre 19. They were all very powerful. This brat is really arrogant. He wants to fight against 3 people at the same time. Does he think that his battle prowess is comparable to those monstrous geniuses in the top 100 quasi-emperors list? Someone expressed their opinion in the illusory heavenly jade. This brat's talent is indeed amazing. If his cultivation is higher, he can easily enter the top 100 quasi-emperors list. But now, he's still a little lacking. Someone else voiced their opinion. However, although they were chatting, their eyes were still fixed on the image projected by the illusory heavenly jade. In the Colosseum of Kunming Island. Boom! Lu Ming and the 3 Sky Prides engaged in a fierce battle. The 4 figures engaged in a fierce battle on the Colosseum. However, Lu Ming still did not use his full strength. He only used 2 gravity orbs. In this way, the 2 sides seemed to be evenly matched and the battle was extremely fierce. The heavens and the earth rumbled. The 4 figures kept flashing and colliding. Every time they collided, it stirred up a terrifying force that swept out in all directions. However, there were layers of formations set up in this area that could block the force. This was the reason why the Sky Prides chose to spar there. Otherwise, with their strength, they could easily blow up a planet, and the damage they could cause would be too great. The 4 of them exchanged a few hundred blows. In the beginning, it was difficult to determine the winner. However, after a few hundred blows, the divine power of the 3 Sky Prides gradually weakened. Lu Ming began to gain the upper hand. Bang! Finally, the first Sky Pride was hit by Lu Ming and flew out of the Colosseum. With another one sent flying, one less Sky Pride was no match for Lu Ming. Not long after, another one was sent flying. The remaining one was even weaker. After 2 blows, he was also sent flying. The 3 Sky Prides were all injured and coughed up blood. They were sent flying out of the Colosseum. This battle was still won by Lu Ming. The entire place was dead silent. All of the geniuses had terrible looks on their faces. Even the 3 experts were defeated. Could it be that Lu Ming's combat strength had really entered the top 100 quasi-emperors list? Of course, there were some exceptions. They were the local geniuses of the Iron Sea Star Zone. These people were gloating in their hearts. The Sky Prides of the various races were all high and mighty and did not take them seriously. Although they tried their best to please them, not many of them looked at them seriously. When they looked at them, their eyes were always full of contempt. However, for their own future, the geniuses of the Iron Sea Star Zone could only be thick-skinned and please these people. Naturally, they were quite unhappy, but they did not dare to show it. Now that they saw these people being suppressed by the Sky Prides of the Iron Sea Star Zone, they were secretly happy. When they looked at Lu Ming, they also felt that Lu Ming was much more pleasing to the eye. Lu Ming naturally did not care about these people's thoughts. He glanced around and said, "It seems that no one can fight me. These words caused many people's faces to turn red. Mu Yun, don't be arrogant. This time, there are several experts on the top 100 quasi-emperors list. It's just that they are not on planet Kun. When they arrive, it will be easy for them to suppress you. Someone shouted. I remember that you said the same thing before coming to the Iron Sea Star Zone. What about now? Lu Ming said lightly. Humph, don't be arrogant. I've already received news that several experts on the top 100 quasi-emperors list are on their way to planet Kun. If you have the guts, don't leave. Someone shouted. Indeed, several geniuses on the top 100 quasi-emperors list who had just arrived in the Iron Sea Star Zone had said in the dreamy divine jade that they would soon come to planet Kun. Oh, is that so? Then I'll wait for them here. Lu Ming's eyes flickered a few times. Then, he sat cross-legged on the fighting ring and took out a bone bead. He began to absorb energy and store it in his cells to enhance his potential. The reason why he did this was that he was curious about the combat strength of the Sky Prides on the top 100 quasi-emperors list. Chapter 38:10. Although the top 100 quasi-emperors list was not as formal as the Universe Prodigy list, it was made by many people in their spare time. There would definitely be omissions and some geniuses would not be listed. But it was not far off. The geniuses on the top 100 quasi-emperors list could definitely represent the highest level of quasi-emperors in the primitive universe. The others also waited, including those who were watching through the dreamy divine jade. However, the dreamy divine jade was already in an uproar. Countless people were discussing. Lu Ming actually dared to wait here for the geniuses on the top 100 quasi-emperors list to arrive. He was really bold. Could it be that Lu Ming was holding back his strength? At this moment, there were indeed a few geniuses in the Iron Sea Star group that were heading towards the Star of Kun. These people were the geniuses on the top 100 quasi-emperors list. Interesting, but too arrogant. I'd like to see what other trump cards this kid has. No matter how strong you are, you will still crawl under my feet. These powerful geniuses had different thoughts as they hurried towards the Star of Kun. Of course, a star group was very vast. It was impossible to connect all the places with wormholes, so it would take some time to reach the destination. More than a day later. Buzz! Ripples appeared in the air above Kunming Lake as a figure suddenly appeared. It was an extremely burly young man with two bull horns on his head. They were like two heavenly blades that pierced the sky. A tyrannical aura spread out from this person. He was only a quasi-emperor, but he gave off a feeling that he could swallow the universe. It was as if a terrifying divine emperor was standing in front of him. It's Nyo Sun from the Divine Ox clan. He's ranked 99 on the top 100 quasi-emperors list. There was a burst of exclamations. Many people were excited and their eyes lit up. The geniuses on the top 100 quasi-emperors list had finally arrived. Although the Divine Ox clan was not ranked high on the primitive universe 10,000 races list and had not entered the top 100, it did not mean that there would not be geniuses. Nyo Sun was a peerless genius of the Divine Ox clan. He was extremely powerful and had trampled many geniuses of the top 100 races under his feet. He was considered to be the most talented genius among the younger generation of the Divine Ox clan. Nyo Sun took a step forward and appeared in the air above the fighting stage. His tyrannical aura kept pressing down on Lu Ming. Looks like I'm lucky to be the first to arrive. Let me suppress Mu Yun. Nyo Sun said coldly. After that, he directly made his move. Boom! He took a step forward, and a gigantic ox hoof condensed in the sky, stomping down on Lu Ming's head. It looked like a casual kick, but in fact, Nyo Sun had used his full strength. He wanted to trample Lu Ming under his foot. He was also one of the elven princess suitors. He knew that the elven princess was probably watching. He wanted to show off his invincible self in front of the elven princess. He had complete confidence in himself. He had witnessed the battle between Lu Ming and the other Sky Prides. Based on the battle prowess that Lu Ming had displayed, he was confident that he could suppress him. Before the huge hooves landed on the ground, the entire fighting ring shook violently. "You really can't wait. I'll fulfill your wish then." Niu Sun's attitude made Lu Ming very unhappy. Therefore, Lu Ming directly used 3 gravity orbs. The 3 gravity orbs flew up into the sky, and the violent gravity pressed down on Niu Sun. Niu Sun staggered and almost fell off the fighting ring. The ox hoof that he had condensed also trembled. Whoosh! Lu Ming flashed, dodged the attack of the ox hoof, and appeared above Niu Sun's head. Boom! 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 Lu Ming's feet continuously stomped on Niu Sun. The cells on Lu Ming's feet were also integrated with many leg-type secret techniques. When they erupted, the power was no weaker than his fists. In fact, every cell in Lu Ming's body contained the taboo power. Various secret techniques had been integrated into every cell in his body. Therefore, Lu Ming's entire body was a weapon that could erupt with powerful power. However, Lu Ming was used to attacking with his hands. Therefore, he had always used his hands before. It was the same with his feet. His huge feet stomped on Niu Sun's face. Give him a taste of his own medicine. Moo! Niu Sun let out a loud roar. His horns glowed, and 2 saber lights burst out, trying to block Lu Ming's attack. However, the gravity from the 3 gravity orbs was too strong. It was much stronger than the gravity from 2 gravity orbs. No matter how strong Niu Sun was, he could not withstand it. Just the gravity orbs alone were enough to injure Niu Sun. Under the pressure of the gravity, it was very difficult for him to circulate the divine power in his body. His muscles and bones were trembling, as if they were about to break. Under such circumstances, how could he block Lu Ming's attack? The attack that he forced out was weak and powerless. Bam! The saber lights burst out from Niu Sun's horns were shattered by Lu Ming's foot. Lu Ming's feet continued to stomp on Niu Sun's face. Niu Sun screamed. His body fell to the ground like a meteorite and crashed heavily on the fighting ring. It was too miserable. One of his horns had been broken by Lu Ming. His nose was crooked, and a large part of his face was caved in. Blood was flowing out. Moreover, he was pressed down by the gravity and was lying on the fighting ring like a dead dog. He could not move for a while. This, the geniuses and the experts who were watching through the dreamy heavenly jade were stunned. They thought that their eyes were playing tricks on them. Niu Sun, a top genius on the Quasi-Emperor's list, had arrived arrogantly to suppress Lu Ming. In the end, he was defeated by Lu Ming in an instant. He was trampled to the ground by Lu Ming. What the hell was going on? Many people could not react in time. It was not until Niu Sun groaned on the ground for a while that the crowd came to their senses. 3 gravity orbs. So this kid can activate 3 gravity orbs. What a miraculous treasure. Activating 1 gravity orb can increase its power by so much. He seems to have 12 gravity orbs in his hand. Can he activate all of them? Who can defeat him then? That's impossible. Normally, this kind of treasure requires a high cultivation level. If one's cultivation level is not high enough, it will be difficult to activate its power. Otherwise, a weak person can dominate a region with just 1 treasure. That's impossible. It's unrealistic. That's right. I think he can activate the power of 3 gravity orbs at most. The geniuses present were all successors of powerful clans. They had seen and heard of all kinds of treasures. Soon, they figured out the mysteries of the gravity orbs. However, even with that being the case, their expressions were still very serious. The power of 3 gravity orbs was already terrifying. Together with Lu Ming's combat strength, it was like adding wings to a tiger. Even someone as strong as Nyo Sun would be killed in one move if he was careless. Chapter 38:11. Get lost. Lu Ming waved his hand and a ray of divine power swept Nyo Sun off the fighting stage. He then kept the gravity orb and the strong gravitational force disappeared. However, at this moment, the void trembled, and the figure of a young man appeared. He was wearing a black robe and he was tall and slender. His face was pale and he was very handsome. Moreover, this person was very handsome. His pale skin and handsome face made him look like a woman. At the same time, a terrifying chill spread out from his body. Sun Moon Tribe, Yin Shang Yangye. Someone exclaimed and was overjoyed. The young man who had just arrived was no ordinary person. He was from the Sun Moon Tribe. The Sun Moon Tribe was ranked 32nd on the primitive 10,000 tribe board. He was born with an extreme Yin body and could control the extreme cold force. Yin Shang Yangye was a peerless genius in the Sun Moon Tribe and he was ranked 66th on the top 100 Boundary Emperors board. He was much stronger than Nyo Sun. Yin Shang Yangye stood in the air and looked around. When he saw the injured Nyo Sun, his eyes narrowed and his gaze froze. Nyo Sun, you are injured? Who injured you, Mu Yun? Yin Shang Yangye was in disbelief. Yin Shang Yangye, you have to be careful. Mu Yun can activate 3 gravity orbs. The gravitational force is strong and it is at least 5 times stronger than 2 gravity orbs. Nyo Sun said, his face still pale. However, he had thought that the gravitational force of 3 gravity orbs was 5 times stronger than 2 gravity orbs. When Lu Ming had fought against him, he had not activated all of his strength. If he activated all of his strength, the gravitational force would be 10 times stronger. Yin Shang Yangye nodded and stepped out. He stood in the air above the fighting stage. Mu Yun, attack. Yin Shang Yangye said coldly. After all, he was not Nyo Sun and his combat strength was stronger than Nyo Sun. Even if Lu Ming could activate 3 gravity orbs, he could still protect himself. The moment he spoke, Yin Shang Yangye landed on the fighting stage. Against Lu Ming's gravity orbs, it was not wise to stay in the air. It would be easier to resist the gravitational force if he landed on the ground. As soon as his feet touched the ground, a layer of frost immediately appeared on the ground and spread towards Lu Ming at an astonishing speed. In the blink of an eye, it arrived in front of Lu Ming. Lu Ming felt a terrifying chill rush from the soles of his feet to the top of his head, wanting to freeze his entire body. Boom! All the cells in Lu Ming's body trembled and burst out with a terrifying vibrating force. In an instant, the chill was shaken away. Whoosh! At this moment, a pair of wings condensed from ice appeared on Yin Shang Yangye's back. With a flap, he arrived in front of Lu Ming. There was a black airflow circling around his body. This was the power of Yin. It was said that a sliver of the power of Yin could freeze an entire planet. Whoosh! The power of Yin coiled around Yin Shang Yangye's palm as he slammed it towards Lu Ming. Lu Ming did not dodge and threw out a punch. There was a terrifying roar and Lu Ming retreated rapidly. There was a layer of ice on his arm and it was spreading toward his body at an alarming speed. A layer of ice armor had already appeared and it seemed as if it was going to freeze every cell in Lu Ming's body. Boom! Lu Ming channeled his forbidden energy and attacked with all his might before finally breaking away from the chill. The power of Yin is indeed terrifying. Lu Ming was shocked. There was also the power of Yin in the lesser worlds, but it was completely different from the power of Yin in the primitive universe. The power of Yin in the primitive universe was many times more terrifying than the power of Yin in the lesser worlds. At this moment, Yin Shang Yangye charged towards Lu Ming again. "I've played enough with you." Lu Ming growled, and 3 gravity orbs flew out. Boom! A terrifying gravitational force instantly enveloped the entire fighting stage. Yin Shang Yangye's body trembled, and he almost lost his balance. "Boundless Taiyin, freeze!" Yin Shang Yangye roared, and a tiny wisp of power of Yin appeared between his eyebrows. This wisp of power of the sun seemed small, but its power was even more terrifying. This was Yin Shang Yangye's origin secret technique. As soon as the origin secret technique was used, the chill around Yin Shang Yangye's body became even more terrifying. Countless cold waves rushed out in all directions, and the void completely froze. It was as if even gravity could be frozen. In fact, the gravity was not frozen, but a part of its power was blocked. Primitive ice god body. Yin Shang Yangye roared, and his body underwent a drastic change. His body became somewhat transparent, like a piece of transparent ice. In the blink of an eye, Yin Shang Yangye turned into a 10-meter tall iceman. This was Yin Shang Yangye's primitive divine body, which was modeled after the primitive ice god. In this way, Yin Shang Yangye could be said to have used all his trump cards. He stepped forward, broke through the gravitational force, and charged at Lu Ming. How could Lu Ming be afraid of him? His figure flashed, and he punched out. Boom boom boom. The two of them clashed again, and this time, it was even more intense than before. Yin Shang Yangye's battle strength was indeed terrifying. After going all out, even Lu Ming couldn't do anything to Yin Shang Yangye for a while, even with 3 gravity orbs. The two of them exchanged dozens of blows, but there was no clear victor. The combat ability of the Yin Merchant and Yang Leaf was much stronger than that of Nyo Sun. It was very terrifying. Lu Ming gradually activated the gravity of the 3 gravity pearls. In the beginning, the Yin Merchant and Yang Leaf could withstand it. However, when the power of the 3 gravity orbs reached 90%, Yin Shang Yangye finally felt immense pressure. He felt that his body was wrapped in layers of power, and the pressure made it difficult for him to move. He had to use all his strength to break through the gravitational force and block Lu Ming's attacks. At that moment, there were ripples in the air, and a figure appeared in the air. This was still a young man. His figure was tall and slender, and he was quite handsome. He wore silver silk and had an elegant bearing. However, many people were shocked and they saw the young man. It's 9 Silkworm Prince from the Sky Silkworm tribe. He's here too. He's a terrifying genius ranked 49th on the top 100 Boundary Emperors list. He's even stronger than Yin Shang Yangye. I heard that Yin Shang Yangye was defeated by 9 Silkworm Prince before. Many people exclaimed. 9 Silkworm Prince was very famous among the people who were pursuing the Elven Princess. The Sky Silkworm tribe was ranked 26th on the primitive 10,000 tribes list. They were ranked higher than the Sun Moon tribe and the Elven tribe. 9 Silkworm Prince was a peerless genius of the Sky Silkworm tribe. Whether it was his background or his qualifications, they were top-notch. Among the Boundary Emperors, there weren't many who could match him. The reason why he was ranked 49th was that many of the people above him were from the top 10 tribes. After all, the top 10 tribes were too terrifying. Their bloodline talents were heaven-defying. Apart from the top 10 tribes, there weren't many Boundary Emperors from the other tribes who could match him. Chapter 38:12. 9 Silkworm Prince stood in the air, his gaze landing on Lu Ming and Yin Shang Yi. Yin Shang, Yang Yi, you may leave. Muyun is mine now. 9 Silkworm Prince said lightly. His voice was calm, but there was an unquestionable tone. It was as if he was ordering Yin Shang Yi around, as if Yin Shang Yi was his subordinate. From this, one could conclude that Nine Silkworm Prince was an extremely conceited person. Yin Shang Yangye was a conceited person as well, so his face instantly darkened to a terrifying degree. Boom! He and Lu Ming exchanged a blow, and the battle stage shook. Both of them took a few steps back. Nine Silkworm, I haven't decided a winner with Mu Yun. He's mine. Yin Shangyi shouted. Humph, after so many blows, you still can't take down a 7th-level Divine Lord. How dare you continue? Get lost. Nine Silkworm Prince said coldly. Nine Silkworm, who do you think you are? What right do you have to order me around? Yin Shangyi was furious. Being reprimanded by Nine Silkworm Prince in public was an extremely embarrassing thing. His anger burned fiercely. Yin Shangyi was also a peerless monster, not much weaker than Nine Silkworm Prince. Why? Just because you're my defeated opponent. Nine Silkworm Prince said coldly. Humph, it's been 10,000 years since our battle. It's not certain who's going to win now. Yin Shangye's eyes burned with fighting spirit. Lu Ming didn't continue. Since Yin Shangyi was going to fight Nine Silkworm Prince, he was naturally willing to be a spectator. So you want to challenge me? You overestimate yourself. Since that's the case, I'll fulfill your wish. Nine Silkworm Prince said coldly. As soon as he finished speaking, a powerful aura exploded from his body. His cultivation was also at the Quasi-Emperor level, but it was many times more terrifying than an ordinary Quasi-Emperor. His body was shrouded in a layer of hazy jade color, making him look otherworldly. Whoosh! Nine Silkworm Prince moved. In a flash, he charged toward Yin Shangyi. His leg swept down on Yin Shangyi. Sky Silkworm Leg, the ultimate technique of the Sky Silkworm race. Facing Nine Silkworm Prince's attack, Yin Shang and Yang Yi didn't dare to be careless. After all, he had been defeated by Nine Silkworm Prince 10,000 years ago. Yin Shang Yang Yi roared. Tai Yin Chi revolved around him, and a giant ice palm struck out. Layers of palm imprints and layers of leg shadows collided with each other, instantly erupting into dozens of explosions. Yin Shang and Yang Yi retreated, but Nine Silkworm Prince was also sent flying. Nine Silkworm, I haven't seen you in 10,000 years. You're just so. Seeing that he had blocked Nine Silkworm Prince's attack, Yin Shang Yangye's confidence increased greatly. Yin Shang, Yang Yi, you're courting death. Nine Silkworm Prince's face was incomparably gloomy. His killing intent was as sharp as a blade as a terrifying chi emerged. Whoosh! Nine Silkworm Prince charged at Yin Shang and Yang Ye again. Great shatter! Nine Silkworm Prince's leg shadows continued to envelop Yin Shang and Yang Yi. Boom! Their attacks collided once again. However, this time, Yin Shang and Yang Yi retreated rapidly after exchanging only a few moves. Everyone could see fine cracks appear on the surface of Yin Shang and Yang Ye's primordial divine body. Yin Shang and Yang Ye's primordial divine body was indestructible. After exchanging so many moves with Lu Ming hadn't been able to break through his defenses. However, Nine Silkworm Prince had broken through his defenses in just a few moves. 3,000 Ancient Secret Arts, Great Shatter. Nine Silkworm, you've actually cultivated the Great Shatter. Yin Shang and Yang Ye roared in shock. It's the 3,000 Ancient Secret Arts. The surrounding spectators also roared in shock. Their hearts were in turmoil, and they could not calm down. Although the power of Origin Secret Arts wasn't weaker than the 3,000 Ancient Secret Arts, they were too difficult to cultivate. Severing the 9 shackles was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. However, the 3,000 Ancient Secret Arts didn't have such shackles. As long as one's comprehension was high enough and had enough opportunities, they could quickly cultivate to an extremely high level and unleash terrifying power. In addition, there was a legend that the 3,000 ancient secret arts were related to a great secret. However, no one had been able to solve it after so many years. Of course, the 3,000 ancient secret arts weren't that easy to cultivate. Even if an ordinary person obtained them, they wouldn't be able to unleash their full power. However, 9 Silkworm Prince's talent was terrifying enough. The Great Shatter was already extremely powerful. It's actually the 3,000 ancient secret arts. Lu Ming's heart pounded fiercely. He hadn't thought that he'd come across another of the 3,000 ancient secret arts, the Great Divine Wind Art, just as he'd obtained one of the 3,000 ancient secret arts, the Great Shatter. He didn't know if it was a coincidence or an opportunity. A wisp of greed flashed through Lu Ming's eyes. He cultivated the forbidden physique and needed secret arts the most, not to mention the 3,000 ancient secret arts. He had already decided that he had to obtain the Great Shatter. If I hadn't spent all my energy on the 3,000 ancient secret arts, I would have broken through to the Divine Emperor realm long ago. You want to fight me? Dream on. 9 Silkworm Prince said coldly. Everyone finally understood why 9 Silkworm Prince was only evenly matched with Yinshang Yangyi when he hadn't used the Great Shatter. It turned out that he'd spent all his energy on the Great Shatter. However, once he mastered the Great Shatter, 9 Silkworm Prince's battle power had indeed skyrocketed. It was enough to make up for all his losses over the years. Kill! 9 Silkworm Prince shouted coldly. Dazzling light shone from his body as he charged toward Yinshang Yangyi. The 3,000 ancient secret arts are just an ordinary secret art. I don't believe it's that strong, Yinshang Yangyi roared. Cold chi surged into the sky as he unleashed all his power toward 9 Silkworm Prince. Bam! Bam! The two clashed again, exchanging 8 moves. Crack! The sound of porcelain shattering rang out as cracks appeared on Yinshang Yangyi's body. He retreated rapidly as ice fell from his body. Poof! Yinshang Yangyi spat out blood, his face pale. He was no match for 9 Silkworm Prince. He was completely suppressed. So strong. 9 Silkworm Prince's battle power is so strong. Is this the power of the 3,000 ancient secret arts? Are the 3,000 ancient secret arts that much stronger than the origin secret arts? Many people were shocked. Many people had heard of the 3,000 ancient secret techniques, but very few had seen them. That was because many of the 3,000 ancient secret techniques had been lost. Now that they had seen them, their power was beyond imagination. It's not necessarily the 3,000 ancient secret arts. It depends on the cultivator. If one's talent and comprehension aren't good enough, they'll still be useless. 9 Silkworm Prince is strong because he's talented. 9 Silkworm Prince didn't defeat Yinshang Yangyi purely with the Great Shatter. He combined the origin secret arts and the primordial divine body. Some knowledgeable people explained. Chapter 38:13. Everyone nodded. Indeed, how could the Grand Shatter art be so powerful that it could completely crush Yinshang and Yangyi? 9 Silkworm Prince had used all his strength when he attacked, using his Constitution secret technique and Origin secret technique to the extreme. Combined with the Grand Shatter art, he was able to defeat Yinshang and Yangyi. 9 Silkworm Prince charged toward Yinshang and Yangyi after gaining the upper hand. His legs lashed out like a storm at Yinshang and Yangyi, and the space cracked like tofu under such terrifying power. Yinshang and Yangyi roared and fought with all their might, but they couldn't change anything. Bang! 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 The two clashed continuously, and the terrifying energy of the Grand Shatter art landed on Yinshang and Yangyi. Yinshang and Yangyi vomited blood, and his body cracked inch by inch. In the end, he couldn't maintain his primordial divine body form anymore, and he collapsed and returned to his original form. Yinshang and Yangyi's body was in tatters, and he was sent flying out of the arena, vomiting blood. He was severely injured. Yin Shang and Yang Yi, this is the difference between us. I lost 10,000 years ago, and I can still lose now. Let me tell you, you're not my match in this life. Also, Yue isn't someone you can pursue. If you know what's good for you, get the hell out of here. 9 Silkworm Prince stared coldly at Yin Shang and Yang Yi. Yin Shang and Yang Yi glared at 9 Silkworm Prince with an ugly expression. But he had lost, and he couldn't refute. The loser had no reason to lose. 9 Silkworm Prince ignored Yin Shang and Yang Yi, and turned to Lu Ming. Mu Yun, I'll give you a chance. With your status, you can't have any interaction with Yue, so cripple your own cultivation, and I'll spare your life. 9 Silkworm Young Master said coldly, commanding Lu Ming. In his view, sparing Lu Ming's life was already a great favor. Whether Lu Ming agreed to marry the elven princess or refused, he couldn't be spared. Crippling his own cultivation was already a way out for him. Hee. Lu Ming sneered. This guy was trying to act cool in front of him. How laughable. I'm afraid you don't have the ability. Lu Ming said indifferently. Really? You've seen what happened to Yin Shang Yangye. Don't think that you can challenge me just because you fought that piece of trash Yin Shang Yangye. Let me tell you, you're still far from enough. 9 Silkworm Prince's eyes were cold and filled with confidence. I really don't know where a quasi-emperor gets the confidence to speak to me, a 7th-level divine lord, like this. With my cultivation, if I were a quasi-emperor, I would be able to suppress him with one finger. Lu Ming laughed mockingly. You're courting death. 9 Silkworm Prince shouted coldly. Lu Ming's words hurt 9 Silkworm Prince's pride. Originally, 9 Silkworm Prince was secretly jealous of Lu Ming. Lu Ming had such combat strength at the 7th-level Divine Lord realm. He was jealous to death. Now that Lu Ming had said this, and the key point was that he was telling the truth, he was instantly enraged. 9 Silkworm Prince shouted coldly and charged at Lu Ming. Whoosh! His leg was like a steel whip, lashing toward Lu Ming. Wherever it passed, there would be a huge explosion in the space, bringing about destructive energy. Although he looked down on Lu Ming, his actions didn't. After all, Lu Ming had fought Yin Shang Yangye to a standstill. Therefore, he used his full strength the moment he attacked. Physique Secret Technique, Origin Secret Technique, Great Shattering Technique, this kick raised his combat strength to the peak. Suppress. Lu Ming waved his hand, and 3 gravity orbs flew out. 100% gravity erupted. Wang. The terrifying gravity pressed down on 9 Silkworm Prince. 9 Silkworm Prince's body trembled. He was greatly affected. After all, when Lu Ming fought Yin Shang Yangye, he didn't use the full power of the gravity orbs. At this moment, 100% gravity erupted. The power of the gravity was unprecedentedly strong. 9 Silkworm Prince felt that the divine power in his body seemed to be filled with mercury. It circulated more than 10 times slower, and he felt as if a dozen planets were pressing down on him. Break! 9 Silkworm Prince roared. His leg shook slightly, and the terrifying Great Shattering Technique erupted. The Great Shattering Technique was said to be able to shatter everything. Even the smallest particle could be shattered. Space instantly shattered into pieces, and even the powerful gravity began to distort. But at this moment, Lu Ming also launched an attack. His fist pierced through the void and blasted toward 9 Silkworm Prince. 9 Silkworm Prince roared. His leg shook, and he changed direction to attack Lu Ming's fist. Boom! The attacks of the two collided, causing a violent explosion. The next moment, Lu Ming retreated rapidly. He retreated a few hundred meters before he could stabilize himself. At the same time, he felt a tearing pain coming from his fist. He lowered his head and saw that his fist had been torn apart, and there were cracks all over it. However, Lu Ming's powerful recovery ability quickly healed the injury. Is this the great shattering technique? It's so powerful. Lu Ming was shocked. In the collision just now, Lu Ming felt that a terrifying power had erupted from Nine Silkworm Prince's side. This power directly shattered his various secret techniques, even the forbidden power, and was about to shatter his fist. Even the forbidden power couldn't block it. It was obvious how terrifying this power was. Of course, it wasn't that the forbidden power wasn't strong enough. It was just that Lu Ming's current cultivation was still weak. He was only a 7th-level Divine Lord. If Lu Ming was at the Quasi-Emperor realm, the same level as Nine Silkworm Prince, the forbidden power would definitely be able to crush Nine Silkworm Prince. While he was shocked, Lu Ming's heart was also burning with desire. He wanted to obtain the Great Shattering Technique even more. This way, he could increase his combat strength. Everything will shatter under the Great Shattering Technique. What can mere gravity do to me? Break for me. Nine Silkworm Prince roared and used all his strength to activate the Great Shattering Technique. Together with his Constitution Secret Technique and Origin Secret Technique, the power was boundless. He broke through the gravity and charged at Lu Ming. You think there are only 3,000 ancient secret techniques? Lu Ming sneered. At this moment, he no longer held back and used the Great Divine Wind Technique. In an instant, a whirlwind wrapped around Lu Ming's palm. This was the power of the Great Divine Wind Technique. It was filled with terrifying cutting and destructive power. Boom! Lu Ming punched out with both fists and collided with Nine Silkworm Prince's leg technique once again. After a series of explosions, this time, the two figures retreated at the same time. Lu Ming and Nine Silkworm Prince retreated more than a dozen steps before regaining their footing. 3,000 ancient secret techniques. How can he know the 3,000 ancient secret techniques? Nine Silkworm Prince's shocked and sharp voice suddenly rang out. It was filled with shock, disbelief, and anger. How could a mere Lu Ming cultivate the 3,000 ancient secret techniques? The scene was also in an uproar. Everyone looked at Lu Ming, tongue-tied. Chapter 38:14. Everyone was flabbergasted and dumbfounded. Lu Ming had also grasped one of the 3,000 ancient secret techniques. All this while, Lu Ming still had a trump card. How could a 7th-level Divine Lord be so strong? Kid, which one of the 3,000 ancient secret techniques is that? Nine Silkworm Prince stared at Lu Ming. Great Divine Wind Technique. Lu Ming said. Great Divine Wind Technique. Nine Silkworm Prince's eyes were burning as he stared at Lu Ming. Kid, give me the Great Divine Wind Technique. As long as you kneel down and admit defeat, I can waive the condition of crippling my own cultivation. Ha! Lu Ming sneered. He could only sneer. This Nine Silkworm Prince was probably used to being superior since young. Although his cultivation talent was high, his IQ wasn't high. Seeing that he had already used the Great Divine Wind Technique, he was still so confident as if he could defeat Lu Ming. Where did his confidence come from? What are you laughing at? Nine Silkworm Prince felt Lu Ming's mockery, and his eyes turned cold. What are you laughing at? You're laughing too self-righteously. Tell me, in my eyes, you're nothing. Do you understand? Lu Ming said. You're courting death. Nine Silkworm Prince shouted. This sentence again. Can't you change it? How about this, if you want the Great Divine Wind Technique, I'll give you a chance. Let's make a bet. How about it? Lu Ming said. What bet? Nine Silkworm Prince said. Let's bet on who wins and who loses. The loser has to give the 3,000 ancient secret techniques to the winner. If I lose, I'll give you the Great Divine Wind technique. If I lose, you'll give me the Great Divine Wind technique. How about that? Lu Ming voiced out the purpose in his heart. I won't lose. Nine Silkworm Prince was still very confident. If you say that, then it's meaningless. Let's not fight this battle. Goodbye. Lu Ming turned and was about to leave. Wait! Nine Silkworm Prince shouted. How could he let Lu Ming leave? He was determined to get the Great Divine Wind technique. Do you want to bet? Lu Ming stopped and turned around. Alright, I'll make a bet. Whoever loses will hand over the 3,000 ancient secret arts. Nine Silkworm said. The people around him immediately cheered up. Lu Ming and Nine Silkworm Prince actually wanted to bet the 3,000 ancient secret arts. In that case, the two of them would definitely go all out. This battle would be very interesting to watch. Moreover, there would be a clash of ancient secret arts, which was extremely rare. Boom! Lu Ming and Nine Silkworm Prince stood on the battle stage. Powerful qi exploded from their bodies and collided with each other. Wang! Lu Ming waved his hand and continued to control the gravity pearls. The gravity of the 3 gravity pearls erupted, and the terrifying gravity pressed down on Nine Silkworm Buddha Prince. The power of the 3 gravity pearls was extremely terrifying. Even if it was a monarch-grade divine artifact, it would be crushed instantly. Nine Silkworm Prince was also greatly affected. He went all out, using the great art of fragmentation as the edge to break through the gravity and clash with Lu Ming. Lu Ming also used the Great Divine Wind technique. With the Great Divine Wind technique as the core, he used various secret arts to attack Nine Silkworm Prince. Boom! 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 The two of them fiercely exchanged dozens of blows. Lu Ming went all out and used the Great Divine Wind technique to finally block Nine Silkworm Prince's attack. For a moment, the two of them were evenly matched. Amazing! I didn't expect Mu Yun's Great Divine Wind technique to be cultivated to such a level. What terrifying power! This Mu Yun looks very young. According to his life origin, he doesn't seem to be more than 10,000 years old. It's a miracle that he's so terrifying at such a young age. This talent is amazing. Many people sighed. The 3,000 ancient secret arts were rare, but the primitive universe was so big that there would be people who would obtain them. However, obtaining them was one thing, and cultivating them was another. In fact, many people who obtained the 3,000 ancient secret arts tried their best to cultivate them, but in the end, they failed and went back to cultivate the origin secret arts. Techniques were good techniques, but it also depended on the person who used them. However, what they didn't know was that Lu Ming had only cultivated the Great Divine Wind technique for a little more than a year. If they knew, their eyeballs would probably pop out. Lu Ming had cultivated to such a level in a little more than a year. When he erupted, he wasn't any weaker than Nine Silkworm Prince's great art of fragmentation. Of course, this had to do with his talent and comprehension. Ever since he merged with the forbidden power and became a forbidden body, Lu Ming found that his comprehension was getting more and more terrifying. It seemed to be constantly improving. No wonder the forbidden body was called a taboo, and even the heavenly palace was afraid of it. It wasn't without reason. Now that Lu Ming was cultivating ordinary mystic skills, he would be able to succeed easily. In addition, the environment was full of strong winds. Cultivating the Great Divine Wind technique complemented each other and was faster. As a result, Lu Ming cultivated it for more than a year, but its power was comparable to 9 Silkworm Princes for 10,000 years. The two exchanged dozens of blows, and they were evenly matched. 9 Silkworm Prince was a little impatient. One had to know that his purpose here was to suppress Lu Ming. Countless people were watching, and even Ling Yue was watching. But now, he couldn't take down Lu Ming. His anger soared. Die, brat! 9 Silkworm Prince roared, and his attacks became even more violent. Unfortunately, under the suppression of gravity, he couldn't use his full strength and couldn't defeat Lu Ming. 9 Silkworm Prince, I heard that the great art of fragmentation that you've cultivated for 10,000 years is only this powerful? How laughable. You call yourself a genius. Let me tell you, I've only cultivated the great divine wind technique for a year. 3,000 ancient secret arts, such an easy secret art to cultivate, actually took 10,000 years to cultivate. How embarrassing. Lu Ming laughed. More than a year? Everyone who heard this was stunned at first, but then they shook their heads. They didn't believe it at all. How could he cultivate the great divine wind technique to this level in a year? How was that possible? Nonsense. 9 Silkworm Prince roared. He didn't believe it at all. If Lu Ming cultivated the great divine wind technique to this level in a year, then what was he? Trash? No, he was even worse than trash. He couldn't accept it. You're trash, so you don't want to accept the excellence of others. How sad. Lu Ming said proudly. Impossible. Don't think of using such a method to disturb my state of mind. 9 Silkworm Prince roared. The others nodded, thinking that Lu Ming said that on purpose to disturb 9 Silkworm Prince's state of mind and make him reveal a flaw. They guessed right. Lu Ming did want to make 9 Silkworm Prince reveal a flaw, but what he said was the truth. Of course, no one would believe it. 9 Silkworm, is this your strength? What are you using to suppress me? If this continues, I'm going to lose. Lu Ming continued. Die. 9 Silkworm Prince roared. His state of mind was indeed a little chaotic. Chapter 38:15. First of all, 9 Silkworm Prince had been full of confidence, as if he could suppress Lu Ming with a flip of his hand. But now, he couldn't even gain the upper hand. He was anxious. Also, Lu Ming said that he had cultivated the great divine wind technique to such a level in a year. Although he didn't believe it, there was no doubt that Lu Ming had cultivated the great divine wind technique in a shorter time than him. To him, it had more or less affected him. Therefore, his mental state was a little chaotic, and he wanted to suppress Lu Ming as soon as possible. Once his mental state was in a mess, he would naturally have an opening. 9 Silkworm Prince's body glowed, and a jade sword flew out from between his eyebrows and slashed at the gravity orb. The gravity of the gravity orb was very uncomfortable for him, and he wanted to break through the pressure. Clang! The jade sword slashed at the gravity orb, and there was a loud boom. Unfortunately, the gravity orb was indestructible and couldn't be broken. It only retreated a little, and the gravity was still strong. Now! Lu Ming's eyes flashed as he caught 9 Silkworm Prince's opening. Lu Ming's figure suddenly changed, and like a phantom, he charged at 9 Silkworm Prince, his speed suddenly increasing. Since the Great Divine Wind technique was related to wind, it could not only increase Lu Ming's attack power, but also increase Lu Ming's speed. Whoosh! Whoosh! Lu Ming appeared on 9 Silkworm Prince's left side, and his palm was like a sword, stabbing 36 times in an instant, all aimed at 9 Silkworm Prince's 3 openings. Everything happened in the time it took for a spark to fly off a piece of flint. It was too fast, so fast that many people couldn't react in time. 9 Silkworm Prince was worthy of being a peerless genius. He instantly changed his figure, and his leg kicked out like a gust of wind. At the same time, his palm was like a saber, slashing at Lu Ming's neck. This way, 2 of the 3 openings disappeared, and he made up for them. But there was still one more. Pfft! Lu Ming's palm pierced 9 Silkworm Prince's chest. The terrifying power instantly tore apart 9 Silkworm Prince's defenses, and his muscles and bones were torn apart by the terrifying power. A bloody hole appeared in his chest, and it was penetrating from front to back. 9 Silkworm Prince screamed, and his body frantically retreated. At the same time, he circulated his divine power to seal the wound, and wanted to counterattack. But how would Lu Ming give him such a chance? After injuring 9 Silkworm Prince in one move and gaining the upper hand, 9 Silkworm Prince's fate was already sealed. Whoosh! Lu Ming's attacks were endless. His attacks filled the entire sky. Bang! Bang! 9 Silkworm Prince was hit continuously. Although he was powerful, he could not withstand Lu Ming's attacks. A few more wounds appeared on his body. In particular, one of Lu Ming's moves had hit his head, almost causing his head to explode. His 9 Silkworm Princesses' secret was of his body his soul. 9 his soul souls his. His soul was greatly shaken, causing him to be dazed for a moment, and stars appeared before his eyes. 9 Silkworm Prince knew he was in trouble. He roared and launched an all-encompassing attack, using both his hands and legs to force Lu Ming back. But Lu Ming easily dodged his attacks and appeared above 9 Silkworm Prince's head. He ruthlessly kicked 9 Silkworm Prince's face, sending him flying. 9 Silkworm Prince's body flew out of the stage like a broken sack. He lay on the ground, groaning for a long time before crawling up and looking at Lu Ming with murderous intent. 9 Silkworm Prince, you've lost. Hand over the Grand Shatter Art. Lu Ming said. Hand over the Grand Shatter Art? Don't even think about it. Kid, a mere disciple of the Fengdu Sword Sect dares to steal my Grand Shatter Art. I'll die. Not only that, but I'll also destroy the Fengdu Sword Sect. 9 Silkworm Prince screamed hysterically. His face was distorted, and his eyes were filled with crazed murderous intent. He was really going crazy. His anger soared to the sky. He had lost to Lu Ming. He couldn't accept it. One had to know that there were countless people watching through the illusory heavenly jade, especially Fairy Princess Ling Yue. It was very likely that she was also watching. He had lost all face. When he thought of this, he couldn't wait to cut Lu Ming into 8 pieces and execute Lu Ming. He hated Lu Ming. Why did he resist? Why did he not allow him to suppress him obediently and allow him to boast? This is the genius ranked 49th on the Quasi-Emperor ranking list, the peerless monster of the heavenly silkworm race. Such a trash, going back on his words and going back on his words after losing. Lu Ming sneered. Shut up, you despicable thing. Shut up. 9 Silkworm Prince roared. Lu Ming naturally wouldn't shut up. He continued, just now, you said you wanted to send people to destroy my sect? You want to destroy the Feng City Sword Sect? Everyone, brothers and sisters in the universe, you've all seen it. This is what 9 Silkworm said. He wants to rely on the heavenly silkworm race to destroy the Feng City Sword Sect. If something happens to the Feng City Sword Sect, it must be done by the heavenly silkworm race. You must uphold justice, and the heavenly palace must uphold justice. Lu Ming shouted. Everyone looked at each other. Bastard! Some experts of the heavenly silkworm race also watched through the illusory heavenly jade. They couldn't help but curse. They scolded 9 Silkworm and Lu Ming. 9 Silkworm had lost, but he actually talked nonsense and went back on his words in public. He even wanted to take revenge. It was really embarrassing. And Lu Ming said that nothing could happen to the Feng City Sword Sect in the future. Once something happened, it would be blamed on the heavenly silkworm race. Although the heavenly silkworm race didn't take the Feng City Sword Sect seriously, if they really destroyed the Feng City Sword Sect, their reputation would be ruined. Who would cooperate with them in the future? Not only that, their enemies would also use this as an excuse to attack them. After Lu Ming said that, the heavenly silkworm race not only couldn't touch the Feng City Sword Sect, but also had to prevent others from touching the Feng City Sword Sect. Otherwise, they would also have to send people to protect the Feng City Sword Sect secretly. No wonder some experts of the heavenly silkworm race were cursing. 9 Silkworm Prince also slowly calmed down. He knew that it was impossible to destroy the Feng City Sword Sect, but killing Lu Ming was possible. He just had to do it secretly. The murderous intent in his heart was incomparably cold. He stared at Lu Ming fiercely, like a wild beast choosing a human to devour. He must kill Lu Ming. Today, he had embarrassed him so much. It was unforgivable. 9 Silkworm, why aren't you handing over the great art of fragmentation? The heavenly silkworm race is also considered a big race. Is this the kind of person who goes back on his words? Lu Ming stared at 9 Silkworm Prince. I won't hand it over. What can you do to me? What can you do to me? 9 Silkworm Prince sneered. He might as well go all out. After all, he had already embarrassed himself. If he didn't embarrass himself a little more, he wouldn't hand it over. The great art of fragmentation was something he had painstakingly obtained. Hand it over to Lu Ming? He would probably vomit blood. Chapter 38:16. 9 Silkworm Prince looked at Lu Ming arrogantly. He was a peerless monster of the heavenly silkworm race. Now that everyone was watching, he didn't believe that Lu Ming would dare to do anything to him. Bastard! Many former experts of the heavenly silkworm race cursed. 9 Silkworm had truly disgraced the heavenly silkworm race. On a distant and remote planet, the elf princess Ling Yue, wandering spirit, and the others also saw all of this. This Xiaofan is really shameless, really shameless. Someone like him actually wants to pursue the young lady. He's really out of his league. Compared to Xiaofan, that Mu Yun is much more pleasing to the eye. Yu Ling pouted angrily. Some people come from good backgrounds, but their character is not necessarily good. Ling Yue said. Yu Ling nodded repeatedly. Some people came from good families and were pampered since young. They could get whatever they wanted. No one would go against their wishes. Then, when they grew up, it would be the same. Even if his talent was astonishing, once he encountered a setback or encountered someone who went against his will, he would not be able to take it. His retarded face would be revealed without a doubt. 9 Silkworm Prince was clearly such a person. He had outstanding talent since he was young and had been nurtured by the heavenly silkworm clan. It could be said that he could get whatever he wanted. It had also nurtured his self-confidence and character to do as he pleased. In the face of a stronger race, perhaps he would restrain himself a little, but in the face of a weaker race, his personality would undoubtedly reveal itself. What's more, facing Lu Ming, who was an incomparably despicable piece of trash in his heart, he was filled with a sense of superiority. But in the end, he was defeated by Lu Ming. He found it hard to accept, and his ugly side was revealed without a doubt. Lu Ming was so angry that he wanted to laugh. So, you don't intend to hand it over? Very well, if you don't hand it over, then I'll take it myself. After Lu Ming finished speaking, he stepped into the air and charged towards 9 Silkworm Prince. Mu Yun, how dare you? I'm a peerless genius of the heavenly silkworm race. How dare you touch me? 9 Silkworm roared. There's nothing I don't dare to do. Lu Ming sneered. He sped up, turning into a phantom as he charged at 9 Silkworm Prince. In the blink of an eye, he was above 9 Silkworm Prince's head. Boom! Lu Ming threw a punch. The violent fist force was like a storm, shrouding 9 Silkworm Prince. 9 Silkworm Prince was shocked. He didn't think that Lu Ming would really dare to attack him. At the critical moment, he resisted with all his might. However, he had just been seriously injured by Lu Ming and simply wasn't a match for Lu Ming. His attack had been defeated by Lu Ming. Lu Ming's fist smashed into the 9 Silkworm Prince's face. Ah! 9 Silkworm Prince let out a miserable shriek. His handsome face was completely smashed, and his body flew out. The people in front hurriedly left. Before 9 Silkworm Prince could stop, Lu Ming had already caught up to him and stepped on him. Hand over Grand Shatter. Lu Ming said coldly. Don't even think about it, you bastard. How dare you treat me like this? I want you to die. I want you to die a horrible death, Princess 9 Silkworm roared madly. He was completely crazy, his eyes blood red. He was sure that Lu Ming would at most injure him and wouldn't dare to touch him. As long as he escaped, he would madly seek revenge. As for handing over Grand Shatter, it was impossible. You're courting death. Lu Ming's eyes turned completely cold. Did 9 Silkworm Prince really think that he wouldn't dare to touch him? At most, after killing him, he would leave the Fengdu sword sect and find another place to find a new identity. At most, it would take some effort and time. Lu Ming's body emitted a strong murderous intent. A long spear condensed in his hand. Puff! Puff! Blood splattered everywhere. Lu Ming's long spear directly pierced through 9 Silkworm Prince's legs, nailing them to the ground. 9 Silkworm Prince screamed, his body twitching non-stop. Although he would be able to recover even if his body was torn apart at his level, the pain wouldn't diminish. The surrounding people gasped in shock. Mu Yun was really daring to treat 9 Silkworm Prince like this. Although 9 Silkworm Prince was a little shameless and didn't keep his word, Lu Ming dealing with 9 Silkworm Prince was reasonable. No one could say anything. But 9 Silkworm Prince was a top monster of the Sky Silkworm race. Wasn't he afraid of the Sky Silkworm race's revenge? Although the Sky Silkworm race wouldn't openly attack the Fengdu sword sect, nor would they send people to deal with Lu Ming, secretly sending an expert to kill Lu Ming, or disguise as Lu Ming dying from qi deviation. It wouldn't be difficult. It could only be said that Lu Ming was very daring. Bastard, I want you dead. I'm going to kill you. 9 Silkworm Prince screamed crazily. Bam! Lu Ming grabbed 9 Silkworm Prince's head and slammed it into the ground. The ground here was set up with a powerful formation, so it was very hard. But 9 Silkworm Prince's head still smashed a big hole in the ground. Bam! 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 Lu Ming didn't stop. He grabbed 9 Silkworm Prince and slammed him into the ground repeatedly. Many people felt their teeth hurt, and a chill ran down their spines. As for 9 Silkworm Prince, it was too horrible to look at. He was soon unrecognizable. But 9 Silkworm Prince still gritted his teeth, his eyes full of resentment. Stubborn. Do you really think I won't kill you? Since you won't hand it over, I'll send you on your way. Lu Ming's body was filled with cold killing intent. He condensed a long spear in his hand again. This time, Lu Ming stabbed at 9 Silkworm Prince's dantian. Poof! The long spear pierced into 9 Silkworm Prince's dantian and pierced his stellar core. At the quasi-emperor level, the stellar core would have 9 stellar rings revolving around it. It had already begun to merge and was showing signs of transforming into a star. After being hit by the long spear, 9 Silkworm Prince's stellar rings trembled and dimmed a lot. Even his stellar core shook violently. With a few cracking sounds, a few cracks appeared on his stellar core. With his stellar core severely damaged, 9 Silkworm Prince spat out mouthfuls of blood. He stared at Lu Ming in disbelief. The resentment in his eyes receded and was finally replaced by fear. Lu Ming actually wanted to destroy his stellar core. Destroying his stellar core was no different from killing him. He had never imagined that Lu Ming would actually have the guts to do so. He was a peerless genius of the heavenly silkworm race. He was high and mighty, with countless heavenly silkworm race experts behind him. Lu Ming, a mere disciple of the Fengdu sword sect, dared to touch him? He didn't believe it before, but now he had to because Lu Ming really did make a move. The murderous intent emitted from his body made him shiver all over. At this moment, the scene was also silent. Obviously, no one had expected Lu Ming to be so audacious. Sect leader Wang and the others from the Fengdu sword sect were pale. If Lu Ming really destroyed or killed 9 silkworm prints, the Fengdu sword sect would be under a lot of pressure. Next move, I will completely destroy your stellar core. Lu Ming said coldly. The cold murderous intent made 9 silkworm prints feel as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. He didn't doubt that Lu Ming's next move would really destroy him. I'll hand it over. I'll hand over the great shattering art to you. 9 silkworm prints shouted in horror. You're tuning into the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.